Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 6:01. This is a hybrid meeting, which means that it's in person as well as Zoom. I don't know if we just have one person on Zoom. This
So far,
is
yes.
on Channel 9 live. It will be uploaded to YouTube so that anybody can watch it. I don't think any members other than Nicole are on Zoom. I would ask for everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Unfortunately, we don't have to have a moment of silence because nobody's coming next week. I think this may be the first time.
One of the first, yeah.
Yeah. So we have a couple of scheduled appointments. The first one is the Eagle Scout project, building an observation platform at Broad Cove Trail, and this is Jacob Patello. You want to approach the podium, please? And could you give us your name and address, and if you could sign that sheet that's up there also?
I got you. My name is Jacob Patello at 2320 Chestnut Street. I'll write it down as well. Where's that up? Alright. Yeah.
Can we silence all cell phones, please?
Okay.
Okay, Jacob, can you tell us what the project is going to be?
So my project is at Broad Cove. There is a rock in the middle of the marsh, and it has a beautiful view of the marsh. And from the main trail, there's like no way to actually get that view. And I believe people will be able to get out there to that view. They will get to see the great land, the great marsh, be able to see why we need to conserve this land and how great it is. And I believe that if we put an observation post right on the middle of the rock, it will be a great landmark. So people go, oh, I want to go there during my walk. So they'll be more thrilled to go out there, see that land, see how great it is, see why it's good to protect, and just help the community all in general. We'll be able to maybe put more funding into that. People will want to see it better and grow better, and overall help the place survive and keep well.
Sounds like an interesting project. Mr. Ferry, you have any comments on this? I know you always get involved in these Eagle projects.
Yes, this is actually a pretty cool idea. He has a lot of challenges ahead of him for this. It's not just a observation stand. It will be the similar stand that's out in the trails now, but everything has to be hand carried in because of the location. We still got a little bit more work through conservation, but we got verbal approval, so it's just some fine tuning to do after that. But he has some challenges ahead of him. But that rock he's talking about, it's I would say it's close to 30 feet in elevation.
Oh.
So it's worth the walk.
Yeah. I have not walked that trail. Does the board have any questions?
Actually,
Selectman Hull?
Mr. Black, and working through Mr. Ferry, anything the town we can do to help you, please reach out to us.
Will do.
Don't hesitate.
Got you.
What troop?
Troop 45.
Great troop. I was in the Jamboree. I wish you the best.
Thank you.
What's the timeline on this? Is there any time when this will be complete? Do you have any idea?
Planning to try to get it done at least to the end of this year, start of next year, in this sort of like winter frame. Try to get it done between then and just bang it out. Sooner I can get started, the better.
I had a couple questions.
Sure.
Yes.
My first, so this is awesome. I'm really glad you're doing this, and it's in line with, I think, a lot of the work that the Trails Committee is doing and a lot of the projects that Eagle Scouts before you have done. So this is fantastic, and I'm really proud to support you on it. I did just have two quick questions. How many people could theoretically use the observation platform at one time?
I give it around 2 or 3 people can be on it at the time. Well, I have exact numbers here. It is about 7 feet to 8 feet wide, so long, and yeah, it's 4 feet, so it's about 7 feet to 4 feet.
Nice.
At 3 people easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And where will, I guess maybe this doesn't matter, but I'm just curious for my own knowledge, and where will the rock be moved to? Like, is it just gonna be moved over or completely removed?
It's gonna. I'm trying to get the post like right on top of it. Just,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's over the view and hope we see things better.
Nice. That was it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion then to approve this Eagle project.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve, are we approving it, or are we, I forget the exact verbiage, allowing it to proceed? Yeah. Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, I motion that we allow Jacob Botello's Eagle Scout project to proceed as presented this evening.
Second.
Any discussion or further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it unanimously. Well,
Anything
good
you
luck
need,
and
let
thank
us
you for
know.
doing this project.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I
Mr.
just.
Ferry?
Just needs a signature.
Yes.
Authorizing and proceed.
The chairman, I think it's just the chair.
Could I have that, please?
If you need anything, don't hesitate to let us know. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
luck.
sir.
The next scheduled appointment is with Building Commissioner James Aguiar regarding the Dayton Elementary and Middle School entrance/exit drop-off design. You have the floor.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good evening, Dayton. Good evening, Selectmen, everyone in the room. So this project has been a process. I want to try to start from the beginning, but I'm not going to go over all the details. Everyone knows that that site is congested, always has been, and is getting worse as enrollment goes up and the town expands. So we identified some concerns. Basically, we have a congestion issue when we have drop-off and pickup times. We have only one way in and out, basically, on Center Street. The exit onto 138 is an outgress only. So we brainstormed a while back. We acquired some land. We have additional land on the campus. And we decided to move forward with the engineering study to see if we can redesign the campus, specifically with roadways, traffic patterns, et cetera, et cetera. So Tom Ferry and I, along with contracted engineers, Zenith, Niall Zager, we came up with a conceptual plan, which was given to the selectmen a while back. We had a lot more site work to do. The pandemic hit, delayed everything. We now have a plan that encompasses our initial discussions, a site visit, which was well attended. Ken, you were there. There were many people there. There was some good input from the school side, from the public side. So we took that information, came up with this plan. The plan, we feel, is solid. It will check off all the boxes. The problem is in the discovery phase, we have wetlands on the property that are much more extensive than we originally anticipated. And that can only be ascertained when you get out on the site, put your boots on, and figure out where the delineations are. So that said, we're at a crossroad where if this plan is the plan we're going to move forward with, and we can discuss this through Niall's presentation, we have some additional filings that need to occur that are outside the original engineering scope that we contracted with Zenith Engineering for. The wetland disturbance area will trigger Army Corps of Engineer approval. So we not only have local and state, we also have federal approvals that we need. Now, that may seem daunting. I already contacted the Concord office for Army Corps of Engineers. They were extremely helpful. We emailed back and forth. They are more than happy to help us with this project. So Niall's informed me that the state will probably be the most invasive or not difficult, but will take the longest to get through. So we'd like to bring you through the campus. Any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer, and then we'll see how this progresses. This is a real great project. I hope it happens. This is just another step in the process, but I think in the end, it will do what we need it to do to make that campus safe and lose the congestion, so.
Just a quick question. Did this plan change any since the site visit that we were at?
Yes, slightly.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll touch about
Yep.
part of that, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
For the record now, Zager from Zenith Consulting Engineers. I have 11 by 17 handouts that I could give. One of them is the original that was done, and one is the new. The newer one is the one that has the color yellow and blue area by the softball field at the entrance, and this is the old. So that's the one used.
Plus yours has to be different from that. Anyone else like one?
Could we, I'm not sure, Cable, are you able to get that? No. The public. If the public could see that, we have copies, so if the public can be the ones that.
I'm so used to the old room where I had that.
This way?
You got it.
You got it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Does everybody have one that they would like to see? All right, so as Mr. Aguiar stated, there's not a lot of major changes. However, permitting wise, there are. Some of the major changes or the changes that you will see on there are the reconfiguration of the parking lot and maintenance building. Originally, we had the maintenance building pushed further forward into the parking area, and we had the parking area located, in this area here, in the grass field area here. That was, thank you. So that area there was where we had, I believe, a little over 100 parking spaces. And from what we understand, that's an area that's used a lot for the kids, and there's actually, I guess, an emergency landing spot as well. So it wasn't ideal, but it was at the time it was because of initial planning of wetlands and what have you. Well, when we get into the new wetland delineation, which was kind of like the unknown at that time, we're using Mass GIS, like conceptual wetlands. Now we have a more definitive. We had a professional botanist go out there, Bob Gray from Sebacia, went out there, he analyzed it, came back and said, listen, Niles, the wetlands are a lot more extensive than what was initially planned. And unfortunately, that's typical. The state wetlands that are shown are typically, not as extensive as what's actually out there on the ground. But that's what we were working with at the time. So now that we know what we're working with, there was two different issues. One being there's much more extensive wetlands located at that entrance that's proposed out onto Center Street. And then there's also a vernal pool that was located where the maintenance building was. That was where it was shown on Mass GIS. That's actually moved further west there, which was actually a huge benefit, because what that did, that allows us to be able to push that maintenance building back. And what that did was it allowed us to relocate that parking area. And by doing so, we were able to get 120 parking spaces total between parallel spaces on the entrance coming in from Center Street, as well as some parking spaces at the south of it, Jim, further down. Those 20 spaces, nope, even further down, right there, yeah. There's 20 spaces there, and then 80 spaces in the parking lot by where the proposed maintenance building is. So that's the major reconfiguration. And then that entrance, or that one way onto Center Street, which is really kind of the most important part of this whole thing. What this does is it allows us, and this was brought up by Mr. Ferry and Mr. Aguiar, which I think is a great idea. It pulls the traffic away from the center of the intersection. And what that does is it allows the queue to back up. It allows people to get out going other ways. And it basically can avoid that intersection as much as possible. And it just makes it's gonna make it so much more user-friendly in there. But by doing so, originally, if you look at the old plan, it was a 90-degree turn. There was less than 5,000 square feet of impact to the wetland resource area. That's kind of the key number. Unfortunately, now we're at a little over 15,000 square feet. And there's no, unfortunately, that's the shortest distance. There's no way around that. That's having a 20-foot wide roadway, or access way, I should call it. That's needed for fire and emergency vehicles, so that's the minimum that we can have. And then you have to figure on grading and disturbance and things of that nature. So what you see on that plan, the colored areas, the blue area is the disturbed area, and the green area is the replication area. Whatever you disturb in area, you have to replicate. So that's part of this new proposal. And just bear with me for a second.
Could we be quiet back there, please?
So basically through this new process, a lot of it's still the same. You still have to deal with the local conservation, the local planning board, go through site plan review. There'll be a notice of intent filed with the Conservation Commission. None of that has changed at all. This trigger of a 5,000 square foot disturbance is really the major difference. And what that does is it triggers what's called an environmental notification form, an ENF. That gets submitted to the to MIPA, to a MIPA unit, which is the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act unit, and that's part of the EOEA, tongue twister. It's the Environmental Affairs, Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. And that form gets submitted, and you try to give them as much information on the project as you can. You give them the site plans, there's a full, it's like a 300-page packet that you have to give them. And you go through all this information, and you hope that in that time with the state that the information that you give them, they will find that the information is adequate, and they will allow you to move forward with the project as proposed. Okay, and that's the hope. Now, the unknown is if the state says, well, no, we want more information. We don't feel as though this project meets the criteria of the ENF. Then we have to get into much more detailed, filing and plans and what have you. So that's what triggers called an environmental impact report, or an EIR. That's still filed with the same MIPA of the EOEA, but it's, like I said, it's just much more extensive. As I like to call it, like I say, it's like getting your teeth pulled. It's bad. I don't want to say it's bad, but it just takes a lot more time. So it just adds time and cost. We're fairly confident that this is not going to be necessary, but it is, unfortunately, it is a caveat in the criteria that needs to be met that could possibly happen. So we just want to make sure that the town is aware of it, and that's kind of why we're here tonight. There's 2 other permits that are required. There's the 401 water quality certification that gets submitted to Mass DEP. That's a fairly simple, not too crazy form. That is done, and then that will be done after the the ENF, and hopefully the EIR not being required. And then after that, what is required is the 404 water quality, 404 Army Corps, and that's just the filing with Army Corps, and that is fairly simple. That's at the end. Army Corps is looking at the big picture. They're not looking at, unfortunately, we're over that threshold. It's a very minimal impact in the eyes of the Army Corps. Over 5,000 square feet, around 10,000 square feet to them is very minimal. They're dealing with much larger projects. So this is small potatoes for them. Again, that's kind of the phasing of it. That's what's the added, unfortunately, unknown at that, when we were originally filing this, or coming up with this conceptual plan, we did not know, now we know. So that's why we're back before the town with this, So, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, go over. I know I kind of gave we've been working on this for quite some time, and there's a lot of information that I'm not giving that, if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Sure. So I have a couple of questions. The proposed maintenance building is now closer to the vernal pool. It's within that 100 feet buffer. So is that a COMCON?
So it's further away from the vernal pool. The vernal pool is actually pushed. The vernal pool has actually been relocated.
Correct.
Vernal pool's been relocated?
Yeah,
They had the
This
location
area
wrong.
is not.
Oh, they had the location wrong.
Not them, the map.
Yeah, so
Right.
it
yeah.
hasn't moved, it's
It
where
was
it is.
never
but
there.
it wasn't.
It's moved on the plan, not
Yes.
moved, not, yeah, physically it has not
wondering
moved.
about
Yeah, so that was a benefit for us, that's why we were able to push that back.
And did we lose the parking spaces where the solar panels are? Is that,
No, that's right here, it's just not indicated on
It's
this
not indicated.
aerial. Right, so the area here where the solar panels are is still gonna be parking.
okay.
Okay.
And my third question is, has the school been involved in this
Yes.
plan?
They have.
And
Oh,
they-
you stole
they're
one
okay
of
with
mine.
it?
And the reason they were involved is we reoriented the ball field, as you can see here, because of the wetlands. So I had discussion with them on that.
Did that end up taking, piggybacking off you, did that,
All
when,
set.
did that change end up taking any more off the ball field or anything away from the ball field
A
in
little
terms
bit
of
of the
space?
outfield area,
Okay,
so that's why it had to be reoriented
okay.
to face this way. We still think we can move this ball field back a little bit, but for right now, for permitting purposes, this is where we're locating it. But
Okay.
depending on final permitting and what's allowed, you know, it may adjust slightly. The school didn't seem like it was a big problem having it reoriented.
And my last question is, when you removed in the new plan, the proposed 101 parking spaces in the,
Green space?
yeah, in the green space at the elementary school, I know you added some to the side. I like this better because if you recall from the site visit, one of the issues, I wouldn't call it an issue, but concerns that the school district had was taking away because we used to play soccer and things
Right.
out there, and I'm sure the kids still use the field. Was it to preserve the green space?
It was,
Okay.
it was, yes. When,
I like
when
this
we
better.
left that day, I said to Niles, we need to try to, whatever we do, we need to try to keep this green space open, because it seemed like it was a well-used space by the school department. And the last thing we wanna do is do something that the school department isn't work with their curriculum or their program, so that's why Niles went back to the drawing board.
Thank you.
Selectman Hull.
Couple questions. I haven't heard the word stormwater. Are they involved in this project?
Yeah, we needed to get to this point first, and make sure that the town was amendable to the changes that were made. And then once we go through permitting, stormwater will get involved, yes. But as you know, Mr. Ferry and I have been involved since its inception, so those questions have been brought up, in discussion. So we're conscious of all of that, yes.
The second question has to do with the vernal pool. The vernal pools are actual water,
Right.
visible
Right.
water. So how could there be a mistake
So,
in the drawing?
go ahead.
Things are drawn
So
based on visual, I would hope.
well, the state, when we use the state mapping, the mapping says this is where the vernal pool is. It's just like a symbol on the plan, so that's what we went by. And unfortunately, it was just not accurate. And unfortunately, that happens. It's a nice tool, but at the time, we weren't at that more detailed survey, detailed wetland delineation phase, so we were just using it as let's keep this nice and let's keep this quick and dirty and see what we can come up with to see if it's even viable at all. And fortunately, in this situation, the vernal pool being moved, it helped us tremendously in the planning of the parking and the maintenance building. So,
In regards to the vernal pool, is that caused because of downgrade of elevation, or are there feeder springs?
so vernal pools can actually dry out. Vernal
Right, oh no,
pools,
they do, and then they come back.
they do. They come back usually in the spring and in the fall, and it depends on the creatures that are in there. There's different creatures that can come out and migrate. So what happens is the state has regulations based off of that. How it's fed can be from groundwater. It typically is, but it can also be from watersheds as well, overland.
No, I'm aware of that, and that's why the question is, which is it?
At this point, we don't know.
Because that could impact your project.
No, if it's identified as a vernal pool, then it's gonna be identified, and we need to stay the 200 feet away from it with all of
Okay.
our appurtenances.
The buff.
Right.
You mean
exactly.
regardless of what kind it is? Or what, okay,
Correct.
I understand.
The vernal pool falls within the wetland.
Right.
So the wetland is actually is further out. The extent of that wetland is actually your restrictive factor. It's not the vernal pool.
Okay.
Originally, we thought it was the vernal pool because it was the only thing that was there. It wasn't mapped as a wetland area, it was just a standalone vernal pool. Now with that vernal pool being located within the BVW, or bordering vegetated wetland, it has protection unto itself, but the BVW is what the restrictive factor is.
No, thank you.
Hence the reason for all the permitting.
But that vernal pool was always there, because even when I was in middle school, for science, we used to go out there and like look at salamander, whatever was in there. So, makes sense.
So it's a multi-generational pool.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask, and I know maybe it's hard to answer this question, but with the changes that we're discussing based on just the realities of the project, how does that impact the final, what we think would be the projected cost of the project?
The cost itself the overall project cost to actually construct hasn't changed that much. It's the permitting and the engineering cost that's gonna be impacted. And the timeline.
Thank you.
Now, the question becomes, out of whose budget does that come out of? School department or ours?
Well, the contract with Zenus right now is a special article that was, approved by the taxpayers at a special town meeting, or an annual, I forget which one. So if we're gonna move forward with this and there are increases in cost, I would project that we're gonna do the same thing. We'll have to put a warrant article on and make sure the taxpayers are in support of the additional costs. So right now, to answer your question directly, it's the Dayton taxpayers,
And not like a budget.
not a budgetary item.
That's risky.
They supported it once, and this isn't a redesign, this is just because the boots were on the ground and identified what was out there, it's an alteration of permitting, which changes the engineering cost and the amount of work. But it's a good question, Selectmen's office, but overall, the project cost, there's not very little escalation.
And I hope this helps answer you. I'm confident that the taxpayers will support this because the original idea for this project didn't come from the school district, it came from concerned parents
Oh, okay.
who were having issues with drop-off and pickup and it not being safe and congestion and things like that.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's a safety issue for our students.
Yeah, the school department's done a great job. Mr. Wheeler in particular is phenomenal. He's made the very best of the difficult site, but, we need to address this. Anyone who visits that property anytime in the morning or afternoon, or this intersection, knows the problem.
Are there any other questions?
I have none, thank you.
I don't have any either. So since this isn't finalized, have we just approved, and I'm looking at the town administrator, have we approved the proposed plan with the understanding that there may be changes if the permitting is being denied or changed?
So yeah, like thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like in front of you this evening, we have a proposed plan that in order to go forward, we have to figure out how we're gonna deal with, I think the permitting costs, that essentially are outside the original scope, and we do have a special town meeting coming up, and actually later on the agenda, the selectmen are expected to open the warrant. I think in my opinion, in order to continue moving this project forward, as it's presented, at special town meeting, we need to plan for a warrant article, which we can present to the residents and to the voters and the taxpayers then. And that funding would allow us really to continue on in the process.
I have no issue with that.
Okay.
I think that's fine. And we'll let people decide if they want the project to continue.
Mr. Chairman, I believe you plan to have a public hearing on warrant articles this year?
Yes, I was gonna address that later, but,
I'm sorry?
no, that's fine.
Okay.
We've talked about, in one of our meetings, I don't know which one, that any warrant articles will have a public meeting, probably here, that the public can come and listen to the different warrants and see what the different proposals are. And the players, whether it's the highway department or whatever, if they get a warrant article, they'll come in and explain to the public what they're about. There won't be any vote at that meeting, but there'll be a public meetings that the public can ask any questions that they
I would
wish.
just ask Zena to have a representative available for that night, just in case there are any questions from members of the public, especially when we're talking about real dollars.
Of course.
And I'm thinking anyway, sometime in October. Special town meeting is November 1st, so we'll have all the warrant articles settled by then, and we can have some kind of a meeting.
Sounds good.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Sounds good, though.
So, should we vote then on this, or are we?
So I don't think we need a vote at this point. It's really a presentation with the understanding that in order to go forward, we need to plan for special town meeting warrant article.
Well, I think they put this on there because they wanted to see if the board was, and I'm not saying we need a vote, but if the board was like amenable to the changes. And
That's
I guess
thinking.
my opinion, just from being familiar with the project from the beginning, is I think that the changes enhance the project. I think it makes the buy-in in terms of support from the school district more likely. So I'm going to support it.
I'm going to support it too. Well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
We'll
I
see you
appreciate it.
in
All
October.
right, thank you very much.
Thank you for continuing work on this. I know you have many other projects.
Next agenda item is public input. Whoever wants to speak, would you come to the microphone, give us your name and address, and the news media, the newspaper, they're going, no. Mike's not going to speak.
He wants to be safe at the table.
Yeah. And just be respectful. So is there any public input? How about on Zoom?
There's two people. There's a Chuck and a Nicole Mello. Ask him to unmute.
Nicole, do you have any questions for public input at this time? Or is it Chuck you said?
Yeah, Chuck.
Chuck?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chuck?
All set, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, identify yourself and give us your address, please.
Hi. Bill Mello, 1693 Wellington Street. This, I guess, is a clarification about the Facebook page for the town. And what happens to posts that are made by the public that actually go to that page? So a couple weeks back, I put a post on there. It was kind of like I wanted to test to see whether or not there were permissions that allowed the public to be able to post. And it appeared to allow me to create a post. And I shared that post. But then the post was undiscoverable after that. Like, you couldn't go search or see it, and I had to go to some very specific link from the share that I had created in order to be able to get back to it. I didn't think anything of it, but recently Rafa had a similar issue. He made a post, we were involved, right? It was a question, it disappeared, and it was unrecoverable again. So,
With Rafa, I'm not familiar with your post, but with Rafa, wasn't that very recent?
Yes. And it
I
was
saw-
still there.
I saw it
Yeah.
late this afternoon.
It's still there. I don't know why it's not.
Yeah, I'm not sure if
I'm
that's
not
the way
like,
you look
I
at it,
don't,
but.
I have no idea.
so that's what the question is. It seems like there's a permissions, like the administrators can probably see it, but not even the person that posted it can see it, and certainly the public can't see it. And it is there because if you have some type of special link, you can get back to it again. And if this feature is actually enabled for the public to be able to have discourse, then it's broken. And we should probably try to fix it. So what I'm asking is, one, is that actually a permission setting that we know about? And it doesn't, looking at you guys, I don't think that's the case. I think it's probably something we have to investigate. If the feature is supposed to be available to the public, it really isn't. Their posts disappear.
And you've gone on the website, the Facebook page, and looked at all the different comments from different times we've posted something?
What he's
And you
saying
didn't see
is,
you didn't see your comments?
it's not a comment. He's saying, I know exactly what you're saying. You're saying, he's not saying he commented on someone else's post. He made his own post.
Right.
He said that he couldn't, it was actually rough. So he said he couldn't see it. So I went on the page and I could still see it. But like you, I couldn't just go to the town page and find it. I had to go to like where I was tagged in a comment to find it again. So
Right.
it was hard for me too, even as an admin of the page.
Because you did respond, you gave some good information. You had to do it directly to Rafa somewhere else. You couldn't do it where, at the point of origin. And it's just two separate occasions. Like, first, I experienced it weeks ago. I dismissed it, but then it recurred. And so it seems to be a systemic issue, and I think we should investigate it and fix it.
We can,
This question is actually to Mr. Mullen.
Yes.
Mr. Mullen, we have a tech person, correct, who works with us?
Yes, he's our network administrator, so he does the network administration.
Does he have some role with the Facebook page?
He has none.
and I'm not even sure he's like, that's not like out of his scope, I think.
Yeah, like that's not, yeah, we pay him for network administration and security and webs, and all the backup of our data and web, of our website and our network administration.
So who manages the technical issues of the Facebook page?
So the technical issues that are managed by the Facebook page are the administrators of the Facebook page, which include the members of the Board of Selectmen, and myself and Ms. Brady and Ms. Kerwin. In terms of the prior posts, up until this week, yes. I think Mr. Mello is actually correct. They were there, and there was a lot of engagement on them. But in looking at the Facebook policy, one of the tools that, in my opinion, the Facebook page is about, it's to get information out, and to communicate, all the happenings in town actually coming out of our town government. According to the policy, there was nothing ever established in the Facebook page where we would really invite, actually public discourse onto our Facebook page. I'm aware that all the discourse happens in other pages. And as a way to streamline it, and understanding that that was never the intent of our town Facebook page based on the policy, one of the things I did, I didn't personally want, and professionally, I didn't want a public discourse portion, to grow on our town Facebook page, which we use to communicate. And after I noticed that we actually inadvertently yesterday morning had that feature on, understanding again what the policy was, I did turn it off.
So I just want to be
Yes.
clear, because so what you're saying is, people can still comment
Yes.
on a post,
Absolutely.
but a person that's not really anyone, even an administrator, cannot create their own
Post on the town.
content post on
Yes.
the page, is what you're saying.
Yes, the content on the post, as it was envisioned by the policy, comes from the administrator. It comes from the administrators of the page, which is the town of Dayton.
I think that is in line with the intent of the creation of the page, which if you go to the About section says, it's just for information.
Okay.
If you go to East Bridgewater or Bridgewater, I go to the other towns' Facebook pages to see sort of how they get information out. There's no public debate on the page.
Okay.
That happens in Facebook groups and other pages that other people create. So that's separate from the town. Also, when you have those, I want to be clear, when you have those debates on social media, those are all a public record. And that's why other towns don't want that. Because people will say, sometimes, I'm not talking about anyone here, but people say, swear words, for example, which, people swear in their real lives, no one's clutching their pearls about it, but inappropriate for a public page. And so you can do things like profanity filters and not allowing posts on the page. But I did not know that was the case. I didn't know it was turned off, but I think that is in fact in line with the intent, which was just to get information out there.
Well, I agree with that, but we do allow people to make, if I post something,
Yes.
Bill can make a
Yes.
comment on what I post, assuming it's.
Yeah, if you make something that's coming from the town of Dayton, the public has the ability to respond and weigh in.
Right, the way
And we
Rafa-
give information
the way Rafa
back.
did. Like he responded, there was a post about the agenda, right?
Yes, because
And
he couldn't find his original post, so then he had to do it on a comment on a Town of Dayton.
Yes, which is
post.
okay.
Yeah.
Which is okay.
So it was the feature was turned on accidentally at some point, and recently you shut it off. Is that what I heard?
So I think the default, so I believe the default feature, like, of a member of the public creating a post on the town Facebook page was, I think by default it was on.
Yep.
And I don't believe that was ever the intention of us having a town Facebook page. So understanding that, I went in and I looked at the permissions and the features of the administration of our Facebook page, and I did turn that feature off yesterday.
Okay, that's solved.
So
That's solved.
that explains.
But I just want to be very clear. People can still, like if, I don't know, like you've posted a COVID update
Yeah.
before. Like if you want to go and comment, like everyone can still do that. I guess what you're, like you just can't originate content. And I think Facebook considers it a visitor post. And I think by default, when you create a page, that's on. So you're saying you went in there and changed the default to off, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, will that accidentally go back on again?
No.
So this provides a broadcasting function. And so then the next part of that is because we have various different views within the town, and who gets to choose what originates on that site as a broadcast? The selectmen?
With the administrator, but I don't, if I post something, say for COVID, I don't run it by my colleagues on the board here. I post just facts, not anything political. COVID, I guess some people think it's political, but COVID isn't.
But to answer his question, everyone can post. Like Mike has posted, Mrs. Kerwin will put the agenda on there. Actually, Selectman Hall is the only one who has not posted, but Selectman
But he has,
Pacheco will and I
he has a
will.
right to.
Yeah,
post
Mrs.
something.
Brady does as well.
And we have a general agreement that it's not gonna be political, that we're not gonna post something political.
Right. I'm gonna make a point here, and this is probably gonna end up being something that gets discussed further in the future, if not now. Which is, if you post, even if you say it's not political, if you post certain types of information regularly, it seems to imply that the town has that bias, whatever that is. So if you're posting a lot of information about COVID and restrictions on COVID or recommendations about COVID and statistics about COVID, then it starts to brand the town with some type of a COVID-sensitive, environment. That's just an example.
I know when I post something regarding COVID, I sign my name, so it's not the whole town. I'm signing as information that I'm providing to townspeople with the number of COVID cases we had in the past week, the number of people who've been vaccinated. I don't think I've encouraged people to get vaccinated, but I probably should. Quite frankly, that's my position, that people should get vaccinated.
But you've never
But
done it on
but that's not political, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't want to focus on the example as much as you can skew the information, and it actually makes it look like the town has particular concerns that are your concerns. If you use it regularly, not everybody's doing that, and so how is that controlled? And the other thing is, there's going to be views that never manage to percolate onto that site, just because they don't have access to it the way that the administrators do, which is just these people right here.
But it's not to express views. Again, the site is just for information. I get what you're saying. You're saying if, and I know COVID is the example, but you're saying it gives the appearance like we have concerns when maybe the numbers are like four people get COVID in a week. So I understand your concern, but I just want us to remember that it's literally just supposed to be for information. No, even like opinions really are supposed to be expressed. Certainly no political opinions are supposed to be expressed.
Well, I mean,
But you could
I have
still
seen
go on the
press-
comment and you could still comment something, like, so
No,
your
I
view
get
would
it.
get out there.
so, but that's trying to counter information that's already there. I've seen the pride flag on there. I know, before I was intently focused, we had a Black Lives Matter rally here. Was that on the page? I mean, it was on town property, wasn't it?
I don't believe it was on.
There was a permit, someone, a
Yes,
private
there
resident
was.
got a permit.
But, so, like, if there's certain flavor of content continues to surface on the page, originated by a small segment of the town, then it starts branding the town with that particular information. So I'm questioning, Selectman Pacheco, I see your eyebrow twitch. Okay, so I know that you're not completely agreeing with me, but I'm trying to make a point. I want you to understand it.
Yes.
And it is that that content needs to be non-biased. There was also a Meet the Candidate night, and there was some YouTube videos, and the thumbnail for the YouTube video was Jen Dukowski. That is promoting Jen Dukowski. You know, it should be non-biased, but in this case, whoever was controlling that social media managed to select a thumbnail that...
They don't, though. The thumbnail is automatic. The thumbnail is automatic.
But it is possible to select a different one.
But it would have it would have been someone else. Wouldn't. You can't just not have a thumbnail. So there would have been someone's picture would have been.
Not to have a
automatic.
technical conversation about it. There was also a repost of one of the meetings that actually we had over in the basement next door, and it was the one where there was some controversial flag comments. And for whatever reason, there was a new version of the video posted, and what happened was the camera cut away from Selectman Pacheco when he was making some particular comments, and so you no longer saw him actually saying it. So that looks like manipulation of the content of some of these social media posts.
Well, you do understand that I have no control over the camera,
Yeah,
right?
cable.
Yeah, I have no control over it.
But I think I know what he's getting at.
Yeah,
There
did we
were
actually-
two.
did
There were
we
two
post that on
versions
a-
of that meeting that were uploaded because one is the Zoom, and then one is the cameras in the room. So that's why there was no manipulation. And if there was manipulation, I can honestly say that you would have. Please, I mean this with love and respect. You would have no idea how to do it. And I mean, like, I don't even mean that. Like, I mean that.
I'm not insulted.
You are not like technologically savvy.
And I pretend I am by putting this, but nothing's on the screen, just so you know. Selectman Hull.
I'll ask this straight out.
I didn't find that funny at all.
I'll say this straight out. Who has editorial access to the YouTube?
Cable Television Committee.
No, I said who, that's a person.
All of them.
Cable and all of them have
Yep.
access to it.
All three.
And cable are employees of the town of Dayton, is that correct? And those employees answer to the town administrator and the Board of Selectmen, is that correct?
Yep.
As a result, I'm recommending that some restrictions and some transparency be placed, because the perception, and you're hearing it this evening, is that things are not totally transparent. Later on this meeting, I am going to serve notice of a change of the minutes that I want to see take place of that June 16th meeting, because once again, the minutes do not reflect transparency. Later in this meeting, I will speak specifically to that point.
Are you talking about the minutes you already approved?
I will make a motion later in this meeting to amend those. I have been advised that I must give notice, and it will request that it be placed on the next agenda.
Yeah, these
Which
were
is
minutes
next.
that we all had an opportunity to read. We voted to approve it, and we all signed it. But I'm gonna ask Cable, is somebody able to, does somebody edit our videos?
By Mass State law, we are not allowed with any open meeting to touch any video. Whatever raw footage we have goes out.
Thank you.
But the camera's cut from camera to camera. Is that just automated?
We click buttons when people talk. That's it. That's all we do.
And any potential manipulation is human error on us. We can tell you specifically in this meeting, if we lose focus, lose attention for a couple seconds, one of us will correct the other and switch the camera. Usually it is very minuscule, these errors, but it's no manipulation whatsoever. We also have to take into account that these cameras are run by joystick, so we are at the mercy of the computer system on how quickly our cameras can turn.
And the question that I have, if I'm speaking, the camera's on me, and then it goes to somebody else, the public still hears what I'm saying.
Yes, all of our microphones are on.
Right.
Every microphone in this room right now is on.
Yeah.
And they don't turn off. We keep microphones on.
And then these end up becoming YouTube videos, correct?
These all go on YouTube.
Can you pick the thumbnail?
They automatically choose.
But
We can change
Can
them,
you
but
pick
we
it?
don't because they just automatically choose and I don't want to favor a thumbnail, you know what I mean?
I understand, but what I was talking about earlier was an important example of when you should select a different thumbnail,
We'll
which is
definitely consider that in the
which is
future.
if you have multiple candidates facing off, you don't highlight one candidate.
Unfortunately, sir, YouTube only gives you 3 options for thumbnails, or it gives you the option to make a custom one. Unfortunately, my team is 3 people. We're all part-time. For us to make a thumbnail for the multiple videos that go out per week, that would add a high cost to our payroll, and with all 3 of us having full-time or multiple full-time jobs, it's unfortunately an untenable situation for us.
Can I actually offer a solution to this? Can we just use our town seal as a logo for all meetings going forward to make everybody happy?
Or the flag. There's like we could use a JPEG image of the town flag as well.
Whatever makes people happy, I'm cool with. If you can send me the thumbnail, we can just make that the
It's,
meeting
yeah,
thumbnail for everything moving forward.
It
I'm
works.
fine with that.
So, Rafa, just give your name and address, please.
Yeah, sure, Rafael Del, before I'm looking at it, Dayton. Do you know the reason why the comment section of the YouTube channel is disabled?
That was originally set up before we took control. I don't know if you know.
It's
the
always
difference.
been that way.
Okay.
Because
didn't hear
again, it's for information,
Yeah, I didn't hear
not for
Rafa's
a public
question. I didn't hear your question.
I asked him
Why the comment?
Why the comment section on the YouTube channel is disabled?
To prevent abuse.
To prevent abuse?
Correct. Accurate. And misuse.
Actually, I want to go up and segue.
Sure.
Yeah, my concern is basically how information is transmitted all over the town. Brett explained to me kindly that the official method of broadcasting minutes and agenda is through the public vestibule of the town hall,
We're not minutes, though.
the minutes.
We don't post
The
the
meeting
minutes.
agenda.
Yeah, not-
Yeah.
but we don't post minutes.
No.
And then the meeting agenda, and then the vestibule is open to the public 24 hours a day. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, my main concern is that how many Daytonians actually pay a visit to the town hall, to the vestibule, just to check the minutes and the agenda?
Nobody. That's why we do online now.
Right, so, which brings me to my proposal, because I'm reviewing the open meeting law guide and educational materials in 2018. And on page 8, there's a question that says, what are the requirements for filing and posting meeting notices for local public bodies? In the second paragraph, it says, prior to utilizing the municipal website, the chief executive officer of the municipality, and I don't have any idea who that is.
For selectmen
The
technically.
CEO of,
Yeah, we are the CEOs of.
you are the
yes.
CEO, must authorize or vote to adopt such website as the official method of posting notice. I understand there's some still people who prefer to check the vestibule, the public vestibule, to check the minutes and agenda, but we're living in a period where almost everybody has access to website. So I would like to propose to the town of Dayton to possibly make the official town of Dayton website as the digital vestibule, where the meeting and the notices should be posted exactly on the homepage. Because I find myself like struggling to find the link to the agenda, and not only me, but also a lot of people that I know that I spoke with, and especially the old people from Lincoln Village. They don't have any clue what's going on. I mean, they rarely come to the town hall to check the notices. Not even, they don't have any access to the smartphone or an app. Do we have an app, by the way? Is there an app?
We're not that cool.
Okay, that's another proposal that I'd like to bring up.
There is an app for our website.
I mean, you could go.
Yeah.
You could go on
I
it
got it
on
my
a.
phone,
on
but
a
You're not talking about the
internet
Facebook
browser.
page, you're talking about the
I'm
website.
talking the town of website, the official
My-
website, yeah.
I would actually agree with you, but let me finish. The only concern that I have is not for the Board of Selectmen, because Mrs. Kerwin is the website administrator and she'll get it up there on time. I think it's impossible to have them all be on the homepage just the way that the website is set up. And that's of no fault to our own, it's a homepage and there's nowhere to put that stuff. And the other concern that I have is just a logistical concern. Again, not for the Board of Selectmen, because we're consistent. Our committees and subcommittees are consistent, but it's other boards, because then we would technically be responsible for like a rant. I'm just gonna pick a name out. The Trails Committee didn't get their stuff out on time. And I don't want to bind their hands. I will say, your question made me go back and look at the different boards and committees' independent pages, and most are actually pretty good about getting them up there, but I'm nervous just to actually enshrine that, because then we're reliant, because if someone doesn't post the agenda on the website 48 hours in advance, then it's an open meeting law violation. And that's my only concern. I want to be clear, your idea is great. I wish we could do it. When I did the website over, that was my intent, was to have everything be online. But then what I found out is, other boards and committees, I mean, they're volunteers, right? They may not care to put it online, or they have other stuff to do. So I don't know, those are my just practical concerns, but I do respect the idea, and I actually think it's a good idea. My only concern is logistics.
So whoever this chief executive officer is this the same entity that runs all platforms of the town? Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube,
We all have access.
Snapchat,
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah. We're not,
We don't have Snapchat?
no.
Okay.
Well, we're not on, I mean, personally, people may be on Instagram.
We are.
But the town's on?
Yeah.
Okay. You're so correct about me being so illiterate when it comes to
Okay, I
this.
just wanted to bring that up. I actually have a second issue which is totally unrelated.
Mr. Mullen, you want to respond to what?
So yes, and I understand Rafa's point, and I understand Dr. Z's point as well. Like, I think in terms of having a streamlined fashion of posting meetings on our website, like all the agendas and all the minutes, they go through the town clerk. So he's the central repository, if you will, who's able to keep track of the agendas, when people are meeting and everything else. So I think, like in order to utilize that website, like exactly like you're speaking, and like actually, other communities I know have opted into that practice. Like, I do think, I mean, it is, and we should have a conversation with the town clerk. I mean, in my view, the responsibility for that would be in the town clerk's office, because he is the keeper of the agendas, and that's where all the agendas go in the first place. So I think involving him in the discussion whether or not, our Board of Selectmen, we do this on a regular basis. We post all of our meeting packets, which I think are the only community that I'm aware of that actually does it. But in terms of how we streamline it, in terms of like a global view in terms of all of our boards and committees, I think it's a conversation that really would involve our town clerk at this point as well.
I'm happy to have that conversation. And to your point, I almost called you Mr. Delphin.
Dr.
Right?
Delphin.
Yeah, I love it. I do think it's a good idea.
Just come right to the microphone.
I think next year we get a free revamping of the
We do.
website. And I think we could actually have, as part of that discussion, be making the homepage a place where we can put agenda, like maybe we
Right,
can't
yeah.
do every committee, but like maybe 3 or 4, the most recent
Okay.
next ones. And I think that's a good idea, and I'm happy to have that conversation with Mark. But I certainly don't want, because then he's responsible for like posting. We have a lot of committees. We have like 30 to 50. I don't know the exact number, but
Yeah, and I understand wholeheartedly. I understand exactly the deficiencies with that website. I mean, and I get frustrated as much as we all
hey,
do.
be nice. I worked hard on it.
No, in terms of the layout, not the content that is there,
Just have
but
to find some information.
how it's laid out and where different groups and department upload information, and it's not actually uniform across the board. I understand we have an upgrade available. I think at December, January, and I would like to explore that and upgrading what we have because we have a current contract. However, I believe in a year and a half, that contract is up. And I think there might be other hosting platforms that are out there as well.
That's true.
That actually do a better job centralizing all that just as a function of their platform. And I personally, I want to look into that as well, because I think that would go a long way in addressing all the feedback that you're presenting tonight, and frankly, the feedback that we're getting on a daily basis. So,
I have a
Yes.
second issue, totally unrelated. I love this building, the old town hall. I think the town did a wonderful job renovating the whole thing. But it just saddens me to see all this junk, all these trash. It's becoming a storage. And when the Historical Commission hosted the Boston Post-Coin ceremony on June 17th, and then on July 2nd, those boxes were already there. So why are we doing this to our beloved town hall?
First of all, I don't think they're junk. I think they're,
Well, junk to the outsiders.
but it's all stuff that we need to preserve. But there's been some renovations downstairs, I think, that require that stuff to come up here for the time being anyway.
Because the health required space for PPE during the pandemic, this stuff was displaced. I can't shred it until I go through it. This stuff was all here prior to my employment. But because of the Attorney General's requirements, I can't just shred it arbitrarily. I need to look at it to see what it is, and that takes time. And it's not something that I can put in the hands of an intern or someone who doesn't know what they're looking at. So your point is taken. We'll try to find another place to put it. But it isn't because people have any sense of malice or disgust for this building.
Well, I also consider it could be a fire hazard as well, so. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. I think, Mr. Rosa, you had your hand up.
Yeah,
Would you give your name and address, please?
David Rosa, 323 Lincoln Avenue, North Dayton. Just to follow up on some of my Padres' comments here. First of all, but before I go there, am I mistaken that you have clerical help associated with your office and their experience, and you've had them for some time?
Yes.
Can you pick a date that's your goal to resolve this matter?
Sure.
12 months out, 6 months out?
Sure.
Can you name that date or month?
I'll come up with one.
Okay.
Between 1,000 permits that I issue each year.
Okay.
Also,
I think
the clerical help is part-time and it's shared also.
She works 21 hours a week for the building
Yeah.
department.
Okay,
But I'll make that a priority, Mr. Rosa.
okay. I'm just saying, some days you pick a goal and it helps you get where you're going.
I pick goals every day. Look around.
Okay, well, apparently you have one more you might want to consider. So getting back to the world of connecting electronically, when we built our police station, or the drive to build a new police station, there was a lot of conversation about how embarrassed we were because we were in the Stone Age on the building that we kept our police in, right? Now, we belong to a congressional district that contains 33 cities and towns. How many of those do you think have worse website connectivity than us? Probably not many. We belong to a state senator's district that contains 11 cities and towns. Name one that's worse at this than we are, So we have to cross this bridge. And the comments you heard, maybe the answer is you could have the media, the social media sites, has sort of unofficial, with a note that says this is unofficial communication, and for the official communication, look to the town administrator's either office or call him or whatever, and find the official position regarding a meeting of a committee. But we have to get there. And the delay and the endless evaluation or discussion is, we just have to cross that bridge. So I'm not going to ask you to pick a date, but I am going to say, you really should commit to it. Other cities and towns solve this matter. They've solved it long ago. It's well within the reach. We have the talent, the brain power, and we're sincerely interested, whether it's elected officials now or people in the community, we can get there. So I'd just like to see us make much more of a sincere effort to cross that bridge.
I think
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Mullen
there's a
had
question.
made a comment that the
Platform.
contract is going to be changing, right? And we have an opportunity to have an upgrade or actually get a new contract.
Yeah, we have a year and a half left on the current
Year and a half.
platform contract, but in, 5 months, we have the ability to upgrade within that year and a half, upgrade our current platform. Oh, and I've only been here for, I think, 5 months now, but I mean, I see a lot of issues in terms of how things are centralized and organized. Frankly, the accessibility of our website is well, like for a whole host of reasons, and yeah, it's been a priority since I got here, and I know I have my work like actually cut out for me there, but it's a priority.
Okay, I just wanted to say, it's time. We gotta cross this bridge.
Selectman Howard.
Even if it's a trial period or a trial balloon, however you wanna sort of label it to get us moving down this path. And delay is no help to any of us or to the town. Thank you.
Selectman Hull.
We have some time because we're under a contract.
Yes,
Would the formation of a focus group be any of assistance to you in putting together a list of recommendations for the new contract?
So I think, in my opinion, right now, I know the issues we have with our website wholeheartedly. I mean, in terms of accessibility, nothing being centralized. If you go on other towns' websites, in my opinion, I think it's a platform issue. I mean, when, like Revise, which is our website platform, like at the beginning of their time, like when Revise actually organized and developed as a company, they were one of the most, they were very prominent. They were very, they were very modern in terms of, their look and feel of their website. And as we know, however, website development and all the graphics and the usability is evolving on a daily basis. And I think and I understand, Dr. Z, all the work you put into it, and I think it's really phenomenal. However, it's the website platform itself that hasn't, just in my opinion, upgraded as quickly as other platforms have. And I think that might be one of our challenges in terms of I think there's another platform called like Civics Plus, that has a lot of other towns, and they...
It was okay.
Huh?
It was okay. Revise was actually better at that time than they were.
Yeah, but Civics Plus since then has actually leaped forward. Revise was it, and then Civics Plus has leaped forward in terms of, in my opinion, how they centralize everything.
Way more expensive too. They were like double the cost.
Oh, and that's the other thing. I mean,
No free web design.
Exactly, talking about our website development and upgrading these platforms. Like in my prior position, I priced it out, and just a baseline platform is $25,000. And that's all. So we're trying to maximize what we have, especially for the next year and a half. I hear the board and I hear the public loud and clear that this is a priority, and we'll continue to make it a priority in terms of actually bringing in the town clerk, seeing if we can have a conversation with him, seeing if he can actually help us centralize really that calendar on the home page that is supposed to have all the agendas. So maybe ideally that it won't be, I know we ask all our boards and committees to do that, and frankly a lot of times I don't think, sometimes it doesn't happen, but I'm just wondering if we have the opportunity to ask our town clerk for his help in figuring out a better way to do it.
We can't complete two issues. What you're talking about is the homepage. If the agenda isn't on there, it's because the committee didn't upload it. The new vendor isn't going to solve that.
Oh, I agree.
So
I agree, but
we can
centralizing
make it
where the
easier, but
agendas
if someone
are.
decides not to do it, then someone decides not to do it. And then those questions about transparency should be directed at that individual. That's why I'm nervous to have one person be doing it. And I'm sure if we ask Mr. Pacheco, he's not going to want to be that one person. But we should have that conversation. I'm happy to do that.
And at some point in the future, not the next meeting, but we should bring this back and we should have a full discussion. The board should have a discussion as to what changes we think we need for our website before we get into the end
Well, the
of year.
first change, and it would require no money, is we should send out an email to the board committee clerks or chairs or someone and just say, when you post your agenda, you post it under the agenda and minutes on your webpage, but also on the calendar on the homepage. I mean, this is very easy.
I don't disagree.
We can do this. I believe in us. Dave, we're gonna cross the bridge together, okay? All right.
Wonderful. We have a big heart. I think we got room for it.
Your name and address, please.
Tom Galucci, 2086 Palmer Street. Thank you. I'll be very brief and, not oppositional or anything like that. I'm all in favor of us having a larger web presence and so forth. And we did something like that in the Masons. I belong to the Masonic Lodge in Somerset. And for years, we had a secretary whose idea of copy-paste was literally that, copying and pasting. He would actually take little blurbs and tape them to the previous month's notice and hand those to the printer and make a trifold brochure. And somebody once suggested to me that we, on the Republican Town Committee, should use a trifold brochure, and my answer was, what is this, 1946? So it would be nice if we had kind of a central repository. Now, I read the law, and the law does state that it needs to be in a vestibule with 24 hours access, and you guys have, hit that on the head, and you've got a 48-hour window or something like that prior to a meeting. Okay. What I instituted in the Masons was to exceed the standard. And in exceeding the standard from the Masons was horse and buggy days. It was literally, you mailed out the lodge notice with 2 weeks' notice prior to a meeting. And it was mailed out, and somebody had to have a copy, a mail-in copy, an actual paper copy. We started doing away with that slowly as the members from that generation unfortunately died off, to the point where we're now almost all digital, and we've reduced our costs. I mean, you guys, I'm preaching to the choir here, but to exceed the standard, I think, would be a great thing. So to have the access to the websites and so forth in the hands of the town clerk or the town clerk's designee, I think would be fantastic, because I think it would start to eliminate some of the perception of bias that might be out there. It would streamline things, it would speed things up, and it's a great synthesis for all of this. That's all I really have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. I do, I agree with everything you said, Mr. Galucci. I do just want to remind everybody, we currently are exceeding the standard. It's not up to, obviously, where we want it to be. Part of it is the platform, but part of it is the vestibule is, I want to be clear, it's not a decision that anyone on this board made. Some board of selectmen before us decided that, thank you, Selectman Goulart, you always got my back. Some board before us had decided that it was going to be the vestibule, and that's why it's open 24 hours. When I got elected, do you know what you had to do to find out that there was a meeting? Even that there was a meeting. You had to come to town hall. This was 2016, by the way. Okay, this is like recent history. Thankfully, I had colleagues like Selectman Goulart who saw the value in wanting to redo the website and make the information easier for people to find. We've grown a lot since 2016. We have a lot more committees. People joke around, we have a committee for everything. That's probably true. They need space on the website too, and that's why things end up getting buried. Now we have a chance, to your point, Mr. Galucci, where we can say, we have all this data, we have a layout that we think can be improved. How can we improve upon that? So I actually think we're in a better space right now to make those improvements. But I do just want everyone to be aware that us putting stuff online is so you don't have to come to town hall, so you can be informed on what is going to be discussed at the meeting. So I just wanted to point that out. We have a guest.
Yes.
I don't know if that person was on before I walked up here.
I don't think she's saying
I don't think
anything.
she's saying-
It's default.
We had
Oh.
asked if they had any
Oh,
questions,
okay.
and then
I didn't really come to speak on this, but when you brought up ancient history, the reason why the vestibule is used, there must be a place where you can post 24 hours a day to the public. And because the vestibule can be open and the town hall can be locked, that's why it's there. And also those pages, similar to the assessors maps, where you can go and you should be able to see the heading and find out what committee it is. The main thing we had to deal with was access for the public, and the fact that it's not a meeting officially posted until the town clerk stamps it in and posts it. And so that's why when you go to town hall, the clerk's office, they stamp it in, they usually give the committee person a copy, and they walk right out and they post it right there. So, I don't have a problem with electronic, but I honestly think we should continue with the vestibule.
I
mean,
100% agree with you.
only because of what happened, and we weren't, I was gonna say cited, we weren't cited like you're breaking the law and all this other stuff. It was made clear to us that you can't lock up the place you post. So, fortunately, we had a vestibule we could put it in. So that's how that all came about, and yeah, it was quite a few years ago.
I share my concerns with, I want to be clear. Again, everything should be online. People should not have to come to town hall if they don't want to, or anywhere to see the public posting. But my concern is just if we don't have one person doing it, and now we have a town clerk who feels comfortable, I think, with that technology, and maybe, I don't want to speak for them, may be willing to do it. So it kind of changes the game, but I agree, we should keep it as the official posting place is the vestibule, just so we don't have those open meeting law complaints if, I'm trying to think, I keep saying the Trails Committee, I'm sorry, Jeff Carvalho, but if the Trails Committee doesn't post their agenda, now they've violated, and I want everyone to know in this room, things like that will happen. We have individuals that don't live in Dayton that make complaints all the time. They did it when you were on the board with me, Selectman Aguiar. So it does happen. Other boards have gotten cited with open meeting law complaints because, for one reason or the other, that were not the Board of Selectmen. It does happen, and not everyone is as familiar as we are in these meetings with procedure and things like that in the open meeting law. So I'm 100% with you.
And another thing to remember is Dayton Rehoboth Regional School District not only has an official posting place at the regional high school, they must post in each of the towns. And the Bristol County the Bristol County Commissioners, when they have their meetings, every community must get the notification so that it's posted. Again, that's not why I came tonight, and I don't want to just cut anybody off, but since I'm standing here, I just want to express my appreciation for all the town of Dayton did in publicizing the PMC bike ride. I know there were thousands and thousands of riders. As usual, the Dayton Police, Fire, Highway, everybody involved in this town did a super job. I met my two teammates at the driveway between the Standish house and Mr. Orsini's house, and they didn't have their final total in, but this is a two-person team that had raised, as of Saturday, and it wasn't finished, $16,000, which was a record for them. And that's just two people. And the other thing was, as I was standing down there waiting, thinking, and looking around and noticing how things were going well, I think this one, with all the work and all the announcements you did, being so proactive and saying to people, hey, it's coming, that I had requested, I think it struck close to home recently, and we all now, you know what I'm referring to. And so this one was kind of especially poignant, let me put it that way. So thank you very much. I think the town of Dayton did a great job.
Thank you, Mrs. Goulart.
I just want to add on to that. There was an individual, an unsung hero, a guy who does a lot of stuff behind the scenes, who I know because I was with him on Friday afternoon, and his day was supposed to be a half day. And I left him at noon. Mr. Ferry, thank you for your efforts in putting those signs together. And getting them out there in your time. Thank you.
Doug,
Doug White, 4th Street.
what's the address? We need the address.
455.
Thank you.
So the Town of Dayton Board Selectmen notice, regular meeting notice, the email address is hyperlinked. I sometimes have a hard time getting here, and I've only recently started, kind of like paying more attention. But sometimes it's easier for me to be on the Zoom. And if that were hyperlinked, I wouldn't have to type in all these little numbers here, just like the email address is hyperlinked. You just touch the blue thing. So if we could get that, that's just one little request. I think it would be easy to take care of.
You had mentioned,
Yeah.
what is hyperlink, but
Yeah.
No, come on.
So
come
that
on.
little, so the
I agree.
email address
So you
is in a
can-
blue, and,
Correct.
and if you just touch
Hit
it,
it, yeah.
You are not the first person that said this.
and then
Mr.
it would go on, because I have a Zoom app on my phone, and if I
wanna
just
do it
touched
from
it,
your phone.
I'd be able to like,
It opens it
listen
up
to
right
it on
away,
my way home
doesn't
from
it?
work.
Like when you click it, Doug, doesn't it open right away in Zoom?
No, because it's black.
Ah, but if it was though,
Yeah.
if it was a hyperlink,
What I
it
can
should.
do, but I can't do it on my phone, is on a laptop, I can copy and paste it,
Yeah.
and then put it into my Zoom link. But
Okay.
Well, can you use?
That's
can
hard
do
to
that.
do when I'm driving.
That's an easy change. We can do that. Also, good thing you didn't try to do it tonight because I'm not sure that link was correct.
Okay.
So we will get that fixed for you, sir.
So that is a possibility, Leanne, for us to be able to do that?
And the reason is because each Zoom meeting has a unique hyperlink and or URL, and then also meeting ID and passcode. So it has to be updated every meeting.
I use the meeting ID and password
Okay.
when I use Zoom.
Be a shame if you missed.
Anybody else? Public input? Announcements. Dr. Z, will you read the announcements, please?
Yes. And I just wanted to start with an announcement, which is there was some confusion, and I just want everyone to know that we do make every effort to post both the agenda and the meeting packet on Tuesday afternoons. The Board of Selectmen, as you know, gets it sort of late in the afternoon, almost end of business day. We will continue to do that. So I just want everyone to be aware that that's usually when it comes out around 4:30-ish on Tuesday. And we will continue to do that for everyone.
But, and I know you mentioned it on the social media, but if you could say it to the public, what we must do and what we
Yeah.
do as a convenience.
Yes. So what we are obligated, I feel, hopefully the Attorney General isn't watching, if I mess up.
Usually does.
What we are obligated to do is post the agenda only 48 hours in that vestibule before the meeting. That's it. That's the open meeting law, the way things are right now. What we are doing is posting the agenda sometimes on Monday, Mrs. Kerwin will do it, but sometimes we simply wait till we have the packet on Tuesday, and then we do the agenda and the packet on the website and on the Facebook. So we will continue to do that. It is a convenience. No other town, I just want to be clear, I'm not patting myself on the back, no other town that I know of in this state gives people the same packet that the selectmen get. We don't get anything separate. That is, you are seeing what we're seeing, and we will continue to do that. Town of Dayton public buildings are open to the public. The library is closed to the public, but does continue to offer curbside service. The Town of Dayton Food Bank distribution will be held next on August 21st, 2021, located at the Town Hall, 979 Somerset Avenue on the lower level, not as a drive-through, right? Okay. The Dayton Historical Society is holding a Walk in the Cemetery event with the Gravestone Girls at the Dayton Unitarian Cemetery at 2036 Elm Street on Thursday, September 9th at 6 p.m. Learn about gravestone art, symbolic meaning, cemetery evolution, and more. Reminder, license your dogs. It is the law. Leash your dogs for everyone's safety. All dogs 6 months of age or older must be licensed yearly beginning January 1st. All dogs must be restrained by a leash or chain when on any street or public place in town. If you have any questions, please contact the clerk's office at 508-669-5411, option 2. And I just wanted to add one last thing. I think Community Corner with our town historian has restarted again. I just watched the first episode of the second season. It was really cool. Check it out. Shameless plug.
Thank you. Next agenda item is the town administrator's report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one thing that's listed, and I just have a few other comments as well. But to start off, as we all know and have seen in the news and around, there has been an uptick in COVID cases, actually confirmed COVID cases, like in the region, like in the town, especially the last 2 weeks. We went from actually the beginning into July to averaging around 1 case a week. In the last 2 weeks, we've been at least 7 cases a week. The state, unlike what it had been doing, through the majority of the last year. Actually, the state has actually stopped its color scheme system, in terms of the gray, green, yellow, and red system. But based on that, and based on the recommendations actually coming from the CDC, we are currently, in terms of Bristol County, at a high risk, in terms of COVID transmission. And understanding that, and understanding the, what we've been through, and where we've been, I think everyone wants to get back to so-called normal, but as a town, and when the pandemic task force met, actually on Thursday, August 5th, we did discuss actually the uptick in cases, and did, and we're committed to continuing things, as we have resumed in the spring. However, really just wanted to make sure we, actually remain vigilant, that we don't put in place, any additional restrictions. But in terms of mask wearing, just actually encouraging the wearing of masks in municipal buildings, going forward until we, hopefully have another downturn and decline. So that's what our recommendation is really to the board tonight. Just an encouragement of mask wearing. And isn't a, it is not any type of mandate. It's not any type of requirement. It's an encouragement of mask wearing. Going forward, just in municipal buildings only.
Can I ask? I'm sorry.
Well, this was discussed at the department head meeting also.
Yes,
and we
it
talked to all the department heads that were there. They're all in agreement with this, having the voluntary people wear a mask, encouraging people
Are
to wear a
they
mask.
included, I guess is my question? Like, are we just talking about who are we talking about?
We're talking about the public and the employees.
Okay.
General public and the employees, yes.
They also mentioned that their employees are okay with that too, so wearing a mask. So obviously, we're concerned the average COVID rate is 2.11 in the state. We're 3.4 in the state. As was mentioned, the past 2 weeks, it's been 7 new cases. Before that was 4 and 5 and 1 and 1, but the numbers are going up, and I think we've already got to 6 already this week. And more people are getting vaccinated. We've got 52% of our residents are vaccinated as of August 5th.
May I ask? Sure. Mr. Administrator, when we talk about encouraging mask usage in Dayton municipal buildings, this is slightly changing the subject, but still related. How are we going to deal with boards and committees? And the reason I'm asking this is because I would not feel right encouraging mask use if and then be at the meeting not in a mask. So what
Yes.
are we thinking? How is this all working?
So in my opinion, in my recommendation, again, we're encouraging, we're not requiring. However, based on the discussion here at tonight's meeting, and based on what actually I'm recommending and encouraging, at our next meeting, once we have a little bit of weigh-in from the Board of Selectmen, at our next meeting, I'm going to show up in a mask. But that doesn't require anyone else to show up in a mask. It leaves it to everybody having a personal choice.
Okay. I buy that.
Did you have your hand up?
No.
So I'm also in favor of us encouraging the employees as well as the public that come into any of our buildings to wear a mask. I'll wear a mask at our next meeting. I'll wear a mask when I come in Monday to meet with the town administrator. And I know our office is receptive to it. The Board of Selectmen's office is receptive to, I spoke to them regarding wearing a mask. It's to protect the employees, it's to protect the public, and quite frankly, it's to protect our family. I have a grandson that's 9 years old that can't get vaccinated, so I gotta be careful around him. He's gotta wear a mask when he's in our company in the house. So I think it's very important that we do what's best for the community. We may have a personal opinion about masks means nothing. I don't like wearing a mask. I'm gonna hate wearing a mask at our next meeting, but I had some testing done yesterday in the surgery center in Fall River. Everybody obviously wore a mask. I had to wear a mask. The doctor had a mask and he had a shield. Nobody complained about it. These are people who do it 10, 12 hours a day. So we should be able to be willing to wear a mask for the safety of everybody that's involved. So.
I don't want to move from this. I feel like I'm going to say something. I'm okay with this. If someone would like to wear one, to me, they can wear one. I have no issue with that. And please don't, I don't want anyone to take offense to this. I agree that we should keep our eye on it and take precautions. But there's an old saying, you can find a statistic to prove anything. You can manipulate a number to prove whatever point you're trying to make. We're still doing well. We are doing well. Any person that gets COVID, that's sad and preventable, I agree with you. But just in thinking, because I used to do the COVID updates too, we are nowhere near where we were at the worst part. So we should be vigilant. I will also join you in wearing my mask and leading by example. But I don't want...
No, it's not a Halloween mask we're talking about.
But I just want people out there to know that we're doing it out of an abundance of caution. It's not... I don't feel like... If I really thought that we were in some sort of state of emergency, I would be the first person that was like, if you're coming into town hall, you have to wear a mask. I don't feel like we're there yet. A percentage can be, again, manipulated. So yes, it looks like, 7 compared to last week where it was 1. Yeah, that's a big, right? You're gonna look at it and you're gonna say that's 400%, right? Yep. But it's 7 compared to when we were having, because I used to get those reports and people were unfortunately passing away at that point.
Yep.
And we're nowhere near that way. So I just want people to understand we should be vigilant, but we are nowhere near where we were. That's all.
And that's why the suggestion is that it be voluntary, that it not be mandated. Right. If the numbers go up, and I have no clue as to what the number would be, but I would at some point mandate if the numbers are going up, hopefully they won't go up. But I do believe, is Todd here? Yes. We are considered to be high risk at this point.
Hey, good evening, Todd Pilling, health agent.
Thank you.
We're not in the old red by the old metrics. We would still be in the yellow at this point in time.
Selectman Hull.
Mr. Pilling, I am well aware that earlier this year, numbers for the town of Dayton were inaccurately reported to the town. I am very much aware of it. My question to you is, have you identified in your work with the numbers all of those patients?
I'm not familiar with the inaccuracy that you're referring to.
I would be glad to discuss the agency involved with you in your office.
No, that's fine. I'm not aware of it, but I know there's some
I'm in a conflict of interest going into detail.
No, that's fine. So we're in a some of the confusion here maybe, and I know we had this discussion earlier this week. There's 5 different categories that the Department of Public Health will put you into when you get put into the MAVEN system. One is a confirmed case, which is if you have the PCR test and it's confirmed. If you have a rapid test where it's not a PCR test, it's a probable case. But you still go into the system for us to track, but it's not considered a confirmed case. So where we might have had 12 cases last week, only 7 of them were confirmed positives. The other 5 were presumed to be positive. Or like if you go into your doctor's office and you get tested and you're positive, and then 3 days later your wife all of a sudden develops symptoms. They don't bring her into the office to get tested, they just presume her to be positive and she gets added to the list, but she's not a confirmed positive. So that may be some of the skewing you're referring to. I don't know, we'll talk about it.
Yes.
But.
That's why I ask, I know you're doing contact tracing, no more?
No more, that stopped June 15th.
So you're relying on those DPH numbers as hard fact. There's no way to cross-check that, is that correct?
Well, that's the only way we're getting the numbers, but we still see them every day. We just don't do any of the phone calls. Our nurse is doing them, and when she can't get to them, we send them to the CTC. And the CTC is right now 5 to 7 days to contacting people. We were doing the contact tracing, but like I say, that stopped when COVID ended, so.
So when the state says that we have positive cases, you're giving that person's name,
Yes.
so you know who these people are. I'm not, obviously, we don't want
Well,
to.
they have to call, you have to, at that time, you were calling too.
We were,
Yeah.
yes.
So you would know, yeah.
Right, and the town nurse also knows. What was happening before, and it stopped now, is the fire department would get the address where there was a positive case, but not the name, so they would know they had to wear the full PPE when they went into a house.
Okay.
But yeah, come on down.
Thank you.
I wanted to make one, not related to you, Mr. Pilling. Just for the public, so the public's aware, the pandemic, this was something that was raised, and I wasn't able to respond to it online, but I just wanted to say here, the pandemic task force is not comprised of elected officials. It's just appointed people. It's the police chief, the fire chief.
No police chief.
Oh, there's no police, okay, but the fire chief is on it, right? Building commissioner, health agent. So these decisions are being made based on actual data, not like an elected official's, like, what are we doing here? There's none of that. I have nothing to do with it, you have nothing to do with it, you have nothing. We get the recommendation just like everybody else. So I did just want to point that out as well, which I think was a good decision when we formed the pandemic task force. And that's why I trust the recommendations you bring to us, because you are versed in the issues.
I'm not allowing public input at this time. This is a discussion that public input will be done again later in the meeting.
If I can, just one quick thing. There is the vaccine locations have kind of fizzled a little bit, but there is going to be a vaccine bus going to Taunton High School on August 24th, 25th, and 26th from 10 to 5 if anybody wants to go down. So this is posted on the Board of Health website, and I believe it's going to be or is already up on the main page. So.
Todd, when did they, or did they stop the distribution of the vaccine at the Holiday Inn? When did that stop, or did it stop?
It did. It's phased out back in, I want to say, the end of May, the beginning of June.
Because the first I heard of the Vax Bus was somewhat recent, like last week or two. I'm like, what is that? I didn't know that the Holiday Inn was not a site anymore. Is that, the Vax Bus is the closest to
No,
Dayton?
there are still other locations.
Okay.
This one just happens to be very close, and it's meant to handle large quantities of people. You can still go to the local pharmacies and get them and that kind of stuff. So.
Can we make sure we announce that on the website? If people, people can do with it what they want, but I think getting that, like, I didn't even know the Holiday Inn wasn't a site anymore. I'm sure there are other people. Because I'm already vaccinated, so I'm not like keeping up with what's going on, but that might be helpful for someone else.
Just for the record, I knew that. Thank you, Tom. So I will entertain a motion then regarding the recommendation. Keep on taking your hands up when I look over this.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we accept the pandemic task force recommendations as presented this evening.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstention, the ayes have it. Thank you, Todd, for that.
Thank you, sir.
Town Administrator.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
I just want, thank you, you just reminded me about that. Just a few things. We do, I believe, expect the library modular to be delivered this week. We're making plans, we're having planning meetings with the library as well to make sure all the transitions, all the moving that needs to take place into the temporary modular and into the lower conference room at Town Hall is planned. We also are planning a meeting with the library director, the library staff, the library board of trustees actually next week. So all of us are on the same page of all the expectations, how we're going forward, so we can all plan and be on the same page on that. I also, on a very related note, based on the fact that that at least a portion of the library will be occupying the lower conference room at Town Hall, we have begun a dialogue with the building commissioner, with the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, with the chief of police as well, to begin actually talking about the, our meeting spaces and the fact that we have to, like as we're taking a space away, we have to make sure we are working with everybody, working with the police as well, because if they have a community room, that can be used for public meetings as well. So we began a conversation this morning about that. Actually this afternoon, have begun to involve the cable committee as well in the conversation. Obviously, as we plan forward with all this, in terms of meeting space, we want to make sure we have a streamlined meeting space process. So if there are public hearings, if there are any board meetings, we all have a process where we can follow.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
As we start these conversations? I have a little bit of a concern just because, for example, there used to be a lot more meeting space. So like planning board would have their meetings in their room, ZBA was in that room that's about to be occupied by the library.
Yep.
I think that we need to reach out to the other boards and committees. Some boards have public hearings, for example.
Yep.
I think those need to be priorities.
Oh,
Those
God,
should be
yes.
held in person.
Yep.
Whereas maybe, I feel like I'm picking on the Trails Committee. I don't know. The Finance
I
Committee
get it,
could do
yes.
theirs on Zoom or something.
Well,
You know.
we had that conversation today. We're gonna prioritize the meetings. For example, the zoning board of appeals you were on, and I was on it for 17 years. They can't go to the police station. They have a lot of people go to
correct,
the
correct.
meetings.
And
the
it
planning
needs to be
board, and-
recorded.
and it has- Well, that's one of the things we're gonna be addressing at some point. This TV and the camera may be brought to the police station.
Okay.
We may be getting a bigger TV so that people like me can actually read the names over there. But smaller groups, like the Historic Commission and the Human Rights Committee, we don't have a lot of members, or public input and that kind of stuff, so we may be the ones that are gonna be going to the police station. So,
Okay.
but we've had that conversation. The ZBA is gonna have to change the date of their meetings, because they meet the same time we meet over here, so they can't be over here and us at the same time, so that's something that needs to be discussed.
As the new kid on the block, with some of these small committees especially, are we allowed to use private facilities to have a meeting?
I think it has to be like a public.
Public
So
has
you
to
couldn't have it at the
accessible-
pavilion or at a hall, like a Masonic
I'm okay
hall?
with you looking into it, but I think it
Yeah, I can
has to
look-
be a public building.
I can look into it. Yeah, I don't have the answer off the top of my
I'm
head,
just
but I
going
can
off my
confirm.
gut. It's
Yeah.
the public open meeting law, so, I mean, having the meeting at Jim's house is probably not
Well,
gonna,
no, I
although
wasn't,
I'm
I
sure
wasn't
it's a
saying
great
someone's house, but I'm saying like a
No,
hall,
yeah,
you know?
I think Lenny was suggesting his house.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, like, you get, I mean,
Yeah, I hear what you're
I don't
saying.
wanna throw, I mean,
it's an option that we should
the
absolutely.
pavilion is used by so many different groups.
Yeah, they
The
usually.
They
pavilion
charge,
might,
do they?
you might be able to
but
do
they-
the
They're
pavilion.
usually nonprofit, but it's a possibility. I mean,
Yeah.
the weather's gonna, even though we know it's gonna be 90 degrees for the next few days, fall is coming,
Yeah, it's gonna be
so that won't be an option in a couple of months. But the library may be going down to the basement pretty quick, hopefully, pretty quick, the children's anyway, if that's where they're gonna go. So that space is gonna be gone. So we've already talked about plans, talked to the police chief, we talked to Leanne as to how this is gonna work, who notifies who, when there's gonna be a public meeting. So there's been a lot of thought on this, and we're moving right along. But I know a lot of nonprofits use the pavilion. I don't know if any town committees have used the pavilion, but it's something we can check into.
And then I did have one final question. I feel like we always ask this, but I know that the COD coordinator had been involved before the actual modular was
Yes.
chosen and all that. Will they be involved, I assume, in
Yes.
just making sure everything is up to snuff,
God,
like once
yes.
it's in and everything?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're waiting for it to be delivered, waiting for the ramp. I'm assuming the ramp is by code and everything. I'm looking at Jim. It's by code and everything else. And at some point, I know the ADA coordinator will take a look at it and see how its bathroom width of the doors and that kind of stuff is correct.
Thank you.
So,
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Old business, review, discuss, and act on open of the special town meeting warrant. We have dates. We're going to vote to open up the warrants today. Closing of the warrants will be September 9th. Review warrant draft and placement of articles by September 29th. sign final warrant on October 13th, and posting of warrant articles on October 18, 2021.
May I ask you a procedural question?
Sure.
So I remember we voted on that. I don't have the best memory, but we voted on this, and was it just to accept the schedule?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so tonight we are voting to open the, okay, I understand.
So, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we open the special town meeting warrant as of today.
I second.
Okay, all right, that's all.
I've got just a question for Tom, Mike Mullen. So we also vote on the closing date too then?
Yes.
Okay. May I
withdraw
amend my
the-
motion?
yes, withdraw
Can you
the-
withdraw your second?
Second, sure.
See, I'm learning over here, Selectman Goulart. Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna amend my original motion to state that we're gonna open the special town meeting warrant as of August 11th, 2021, and close the special town meeting warrant as of September 9th, 2021.
Second.
Is there a second? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. The next agenda item is Selectmen's reports and comments. I'll just say briefly that the Human Rights Committee met last week, and it was regarding, each month they pick a subject to talk about, was on wellness, and specifically for seniors in Dayton. And it talked about all the benefits that the town provides, the state provides, and the federal government and nonprofits provide help for the seniors. It was a very good talk, and next month, September, is Suicide Month, and we're going to be discussing suicides.
Oh, that's grim.
I know, but it's something that needs to be discussed. So, any other Selectmen's reports?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Next agenda item is new business, review, discuss, and act on the appointment of a Highway Department Operator Class 1 person. Mr. Ferry.
Good evening.
So it's yours, Mr.
Okay. So as you know, we had a vacancy with Ray Rose retiring after many years of service. We thank him for that. So gentlemen, after reviewing all applications on file and conducting 3 interviews with our applicants, with our town administrator, I would like to recommend Richard Madanka from Taunton. Richard interviewed well and shows to have the most related experience to be a good fit to our department. This appointment would be pending on our pre-employment physical, drug and alcohol tests, along with our background Cory check.
Does the board have any questions?
No.
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
If not, then I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we appoint Richard Mendonca as a Highway Department Operator Class 1, pending the successful completion of all the mentioned requirements. Do we need to mention, when will they be starting, Mr. Ferry?
Tentative start date is September 7th,
Okay.
right after the holiday.
Do I need to mention that in the motion? No?
No.
I
Okay.
don't believe so.
I'm done.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it.
That's awesome.
Next agenda item is
Thank you.
review, discuss, and act on the appointment of Janelle Vining to the Capital Outlay Committee.
And again, this is something that's bylaw, right? Yes.
Yes.
I was just gonna make the motion.
Okay. You can.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Janelle Vining to the Capital Outlay Committee.
I'm gonna second that.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Next agenda item is to appoint Norman Causey to the Human Rights Committee. They took a vote at the meeting last week they interviewed him, and they voted to appoint him to the Human Rights Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Review, discuss, and act. Review, discuss, and act on the appointment of Glorima Vargas McDonald to the Dayton Cultural Council.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Next item is review, discuss, and act on the resignation of Frank Christofoli from the Conservation Commission.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we accept with thanks and appreciation the resignation of Frank Christofoli from the Conservation Commission as an associate member.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Review, discuss, and act on a request from the harbor master to hire a new assistant harbor master. So he had somebody left, and I think it was maybe the end of July, Mr. Duffy maybe?
Yes,
And
correct.
he's,
Mooring officer.
you know, he wants to have somebody, obviously he wants to replace that person, so
Mhm.
I'll entertain a motion.
Well, yeah, so what he's saying is, he doesn't have anyone right now
Right.
in mind, but that he wants us to.
He didn't want to lose that position.
Correct, and I'm happy to make the motion that we allow the position to remain established yet vacant until such time that Mr. Marino can find a suitable replacement.
Is there a second?
That's a pretty good
Second.
motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Marino.
The next agenda item is to vote to appoint Chair of the Stormwater Committee as signatory for the MS4 annual report.
Uh-oh. Selectman Goulart? Did you have anything to say about this?
Yeah, are you opposed to this?
Who are you competing with for this right?
Everybody stand up that wants this job. I attended a stormwater meeting by Zoom last week that the EPA conducted, and one of the subjects covered was the MS4, and that page that we were given is a signature page. That's the last page of the MS4, the annual report. And Newton Tedder from the EPA said, very important, if you haven't done it already, and I'd never heard this before, you need to have your board or your mayor, council, whatever your form of government is, to vote to designate somebody to sign the MS4, because that's the person who's gonna get the phone call or the emails or anything else relative to what's in that report. So in the past, we've had the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, but that was because we were the Board of Health. Then we had the chairman of the Board of Health, and I think since I came back, I've been signing them. But when he said there should be an official vote on record, and he said we don't have to submit it, but we should have it in our stormwater management plan notebook. So that's why I sent that in, and I'm volunteering.
Okay. And I would assume the Board of Health wants this because
We're a subcommittee of the
you're
Board
like
of Health, yes.
actually doing the stormwater.
And they actually are represented on that stormwater committee.
I have no questions,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Selectman Goulart.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we appoint Chairman Selectman Goulart of the Stormwater Committee to be a signatory for the MS4 annual report.
Second?
Yes.
Just appoint the chairman of the stormwater committee.
Okay, yes.
Not a specific
If we
name.
could strike that. Yes. And Selectman Goulart, you made me think of a second question. Will the Board of Selectmen have to do this every year?
No, my understanding is you would only do it if down the road you decide to change that
Okay.
designation.
Thank you.
I second.
So we're not putting her name on the
Yes,
motion.
no, we're going to strike that from the record. I amend my motion with that.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Review, discuss, and act on the survey and planning grant contract between the town of Dayton and the Massachusetts Historical Commission. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the contract? And
Yes.
Yes.
Chairman of the Historical Commission, Patricia Gales.
Thanks for being patient.
My second name. Basically, I can talk to the scope of work that's in the contract. That is the same scope of work that was in the original application and also in the request for quotes that went out that closed today. So, in the scope of work, it just explains the tasks, the products that will be done for each phase. There's 4 phases, and the due dates for it that the preservation consultant will do. That scope of work also becomes part of the contract that we'll make with the selected consultant when we hire.
I think this is fantastic, and I really want to thank the Historical Commission for really taking the initiative on this, especially you, Mrs. Gales.
Thank you.
I know we, in the beginning stages, before we were blessed with Town Administrator Mullen, we were communicating on this and working together on it, and I'm really glad to see it's all happened exactly as you guys all planned. So
Yeah,
thank you
it's
very
really an
much.
exciting project for us. It'll really help our historical landscape. A lot of positive things can come from it. So.
Absolutely. And I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman.
You have any questions? No, I don't have any questions. So we should be voting on this contract, is that?
We're gonna vote, my understanding is to vote to authorize you, Mr. Chairman, to sign and date the cover page on both copies of the contract. Accepting motions?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I motion that we authorize Chairman Ken Pacheco to sign and date the cover page on both copies of the contract as presented this evening.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Next item,
Oh, I have the papers for you to sign.
She's not
and I'm
leaving
ta-
without
I-
the signature.
Oh,
What did you think?
You got that right, Brett.
We're not dealing with a novice here.
Both copies will go back up to the Mass Historical Commission. I'll make sure we have a copy of the signature page, and then they'll mail one back to us after they sign it.
Awesome. Good work, everyone.
Thank you.
only one signature on this one, right?
Yep.
Thank you,
Okay, thanks.
thank you.
I appreciate your support.
Thank you. Very nice. Kudos.
The next agenda item is review, discuss, and act discussion of a flag bylaw committee. I didn't think we were actually thinking about voting on this. I thought we were going to have a discussion to see where.
We do that with every agenda item. You can
So-
either review it, discuss it, or act.
Yes. So what we talked about has been brought up at several meetings, that we form a flag bylaw committee. And they will present something back to the board, and then we're still trying to find out what the mechanics are as far as getting it on the ballot. We haven't got a response yet from our town attorney. But we need to talk about the numbers of people that we want on the committee. And I personally would like a balanced committee, people with different views, because I do want to have something presented to the voters, and I want them to be able to vote on something. Not vote on a no flag policy, but to vote on something, and let them decide which way they want to go. It will not be ready for our special town meeting. The vote to put it on the ballot most likely be at the annual town meeting, where more people will be present to.
Can I ask you a question, though?
Is that the question you want to ask?
No.
You have 2 questions?
Yeah, correct. I'm going to take 2 questions. No, in all seriousness, I agree. It should be balanced. My only question, I guess, to the board is, and you mentioned this, is how many members do we want? And I have seen committees, I've been on committees with 7 members, hard. I've been on committees with 9, even harder. My personal opinion is 5 people. But it is what it is. I also wanted to say and clarify, you made a comment just now where you said there has to be something. What you're saying is you as us, or as the Board of Selectmen, should not accept that the committee doesn't come up with something. Okay.
Yeah,
That has happened, though, on committees before.
They may come up with something that we don't agree with, but that's neither here nor there. That's,
Correct.
they're going to come up with a flag
Correct.
policy.
But I want you to also remember, when we were on the Van Geisenhall Study Committee, we ended up producing a report that recommended that the building be sold, because there was a lot of work that needed to be done on it. And at the time, the Board of Selectmen, as I recall, did not want to sell it. So I just want us to understand that sometimes you create committees that recommend things, and I'm not saying I'm going to agree with whatever they come up with, but we have to be realistic that something may not come back to whatever the individual selectman thinks they should do.
Right.
So I know we all know that, more saying that for the public.
Yeah, and your comment about the numbers, I was thinking 5 or 7, so I think we're on the same page. I'm not sure what you're thinking as far as number of members. Obviously, it should be an odd number.
I like 7, but I do have a question when we're talking about the schedule. If it goes on the annual town meeting, that's usually held in May. Our town election's held in April. So you're gonna put it off for another year, is that what you're saying?
I don't think he's saying he wants to put it off. I think he's saying that there's no way the committee can get up and running and have a bylaw or it'll be a bylaw, ready
Yeah.
for the special town meeting
Right.
before it can go to the annual town election 2022 ballot. So all he's saying is the earliest, and actually, I think Colonel Perry said this too, he didn't expect them, that they could have it. That's why we had the question, can it go to the ballot without first going to the town meeting? My personal opinion is I've never seen that happen.
Okay.
I'm also not an attorney, which is why we're asking town council for that. But all you're saying is, just based on the timing, this is the earliest it could happen.
Yeah, and there was discussion also about possibly putting it on the 2022 ballot, which is the congressional and Senate
Okay.
as a
Yes.
possibility, but we didn't know if that was an option. So this is why our attorney's checking into it. We want to, whatever happens, we want to make sure it's legal and proper and all that kind of
So
good stuff.
that the people that come out to vote on it, their time was not like wasted finding out that the language or whatever is not legal or whatever. So,
In my reference to a balance committee, so say we decide it's going to be 7 members. Doesn't mean the first 7 applicants for it get put on it. We want a balance, we want different views.
correct.
We're not going to be on it. We have our views, obviously. We've made our views pretty public, so we want independent people to look at the whole picture. So I guess we could decide
We can,
decide
want.
on the
You're
number.
talking about an equal balance?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, but the problem with that is, if we have an odd number, I don't know how, hopefully we're going to get some people that are very independent, don't have taken a position either way on the flag policy, and those people can be on it. So
we can
hopefully
only
that's,
do the best we can. I mean,
I
it's,
don't know any of those people.
I'm sure there's some out there, but,
I don't think so.
well, anyway, yeah,
you got the job, Dave.
yes,
Let's, public input's not yet.
public input, yes.
How are we going to determine who,
Well,
is it going to be the 3 of us that will interview the candidates?
Well, we will appoint
And we're
the
gonna
candidates,
make
and we'll see their resume or whatever they're sending to us, the volunteer form.
You know what we could do? You know what I think is a better idea than like a resume? That doesn't, I don't think you need to do a resume, because like, I would be willing to take anyone from any walk of
Could we
life.
stop the discussion
I
back there,
don't need
please?
to know that you got a degree, that doesn't matter to
Yeah.
me. I just want, I want a diverse experience in terms of opinion of thought, okay? I almost think that we, instead of a resume, we should do a cover letter. Why do you want to be on the committee?
Yeah.
Just like a few sentences.
Right, and
I
they
think
don't
that
have to,
might actually
yeah,
be
and
better.
they don't have to state their position on the
Correct.
committee.
No,
On the flag
correct.
policy,
Absolutely
but
not.
just,
They can if they want to.
you can, but it's probably not a good idea, but. So can,
So you want to do that letter based on almost like why I think I should be on?
But like, why are you even interested?
Okay.
Because that's more, to me personally, as the appointing authority, as one of the appointing authorities, that's more interesting to me than where you went to college or where you got where you've been working the last, like, that matters, I guess, but I really am curious to know why people want to be on like, why would you want to be on this independent bylaw committee? Why is this issue important to you? Those are the things that are important to me, but I'll respect, of course, whatever the board decides.
yeah, I think that question, isn't that question part of the, when somebody applies for volunteers for a
It's been
committee?
a long time since I had to fill one of those out, but it's possible.
Yeah,
I
we've
believe
seen
so,
it.
generally speaking, yes.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So can we have a consensus as to the number of people we want on the committee?
I'd like 7.
I don't mind 7, sometimes it's tough, like, to have meetings, like ZBA has, well, their meetings, that's a bad example, their meetings, they're always on at the same time and place, but I just think 7 can be tough. Like, I've been on committees with 7, and quorum you can get, but like, never was there actually all 7 people there. I feel like there was always someone who
Right.
could just by chance couldn't make it, because it's just that many people. I'm not gonna die on the hill over 7 or 5. I mean, we just needs to be an odd number. And 9 is too many, so.
Nine's too many.
And 3 is probably too little, so I feel like what we're choosing between is 5 and 7, so.
So I'm gonna lean towards 7.
Likewise.
I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
So, but we also have to come up with some kind of a mission statement or something that they need to know what they're doing.
Well, it needs to be very clear, because we have had committees who have reached out to us and said, we weren't really sure what we were supposed to be doing. So, yeah, we want to be, very precise and clear. Maybe we could do that next week.
Yeah, I was
Or-
just I was looking at Mike, but maybe we'll
Yep.
put that on the agenda for next week.
Yes.
That we can, sort of like a mission statement, but also, we seem to agree on 7 committee members.
So yes, and if I could, hopefully by that time, we will have some guidance and feedback back from our council as well. And I think one of the things in the charge and the scope of the committee would be deadlines. If, for example, like we are able to move forward with a ballot process, then we have to follow the annual town election ballot deadline process, really, to get that language on the ballot. So that would put us at, generally, I believe, for an April election, the end of February, having that ready by the end of February, ready to go on
I
the
feel
ballot.
like their first order of business should be to come up with their schedule. Like, we can inform them what we hear from town
Yes,
council.
yep.
Here's what's possible. Like, this is when we need it on the ballot, okay? But they should let us know what they plan to do, like, what the pace of their work basically is gonna be. Like, how are we gonna meet that goal? Because we've had committees, like the open space committee, where it got defunct and we didn't have a quorum, and then it took, literally, I went through the box last night. That project started in 2013. We finished it in 2021. It took 7 years. We already had one from 2003, so this was the revised version, but that's what happens.
So hopefully we hear from town council by the next meeting, and we can have a further discussion and vote on forming the committee.
Sounds good.
Correspondence?
Wait, did we take the vote? We finished the vote?
We're not taking a vote, we're gonna wait.
Okay, we'll wait for
We're gonna
both?
wait till next week
Okay.
to see, say it doesn't have to go to a town meeting, it can go right onto the ballot. Next April would be,
We might have more clarification from town
Correct.
council.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
But a schedule would be good, because if they can do it like in November, that's even earlier. So they're gonna really have to have it together to get
Well-
something there. So anyway, I agree, we can do it
well, we're
next week,
closing
but-
the special town meeting warrants on September 9th. We're gonna meet next week, we're not meeting until, I believe it's September 15th, maybe? So we're gonna be meeting after that, so the committee won't even be formed at that point.
Okay, yeah, I didn't
So-
even think that far ahead, that's a good point. That would be tough.
So the next item on the agenda is correspondence. We received 2 emails from Jen Dukowski. One is her resignation from the Human Rights Committee, and the other is her resignation from the Commission on Disabilities. She was appointed to the Finance Committee, and she's not allowed to be on any other committees. So I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the resignation of Jennifer Dukowski from the Human Rights Committee with sincere appreciation for her efforts.
I will second that.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. I will entertain a motion regarding Commission on Disability.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we accept with thanks and appreciation the resignation of Jennifer Dukowski from the Commission on Disabilities.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Are there any acknowledgements? I don't believe there are. No.
Not in
Minutes,
the acknowledging mood tonight.
yes. I'm going to entertain a motion to continue to table the minutes for March 30, 2021. They're not ready for
Okay.
us to review.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Just so you know, Karen Brady is on vacation this week, and she was working on these minutes today.
Good. I'm glad she didn't stay to get it done. Mr.
She's on
Chairman,
vacation.
Mr. Chairman, I motion.
Dedicated employees.
Always. I motion that we approve, Mr. Chairman, the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting minutes of June 23rd, 2021.
Is there a second? I'll step down and second that. Any discussion?
Yes. It's happened twice now. And the first time I alluded to it, and that I was going to talk about it. The second time happened tonight. 5 minutes before the start of a meeting, I get put in front of me the minutes to be signed, to be approved at a meeting. If I really have the time to go through those minutes. 5 minutes before the start of a meeting is not professional, and it does not give me adequate time to review them. I missed that of the June 16th meeting. And I said I was going to serve notice that I would like to amend those minutes, because in one particular section, it does not accurately reflect what was said by a member of this board. I spoke to Mr. Mullen today. I was advised that I had to give notice if I wanted to amend it. I also am aware that under Robert's Rules of Order, I could make a motion for reconsideration of that vote that was taken on those minutes. What I'm not quite sure is if there are other ways, based upon the fact that those meetings are recorded virtually, YouTube, or the actual transcript of that meeting could be admitted into the record rather than redoing this vote. I say that as a question. If that's not doable, then I will ask at the next meeting that this be placed on the agenda to amend the minutes of the June 16th meeting.
So
Regarding the June 23rd, which is what we're actually going to be voting on or discussing anyway, those were given to us yesterday by email, those minutes. I reviewed them. Dr. Z, did you get to review
But this is approval. We already accepted them for review. We should have already had them.
Well, I know I got it yesterday.
Okay.
Email. And I reviewed the minutes
Okay.
today, so that I'd be prepared if I had any concerns or anything like that. In the past, Mrs. Goulart is here. In the past, as you know, if she had any concerns about the minutes, she would notify our executive assistant.
During the review, like during that period before it comes back to the board for approval, those changes would or would not be made by the administrative team.
Right. So we're given a copy of the minutes. If somebody wants to change it, as you know, many times I would ask, have the minutes been changed since we received a copy? And they, sometimes Mrs. Goulart had brought up a good point, and they were changed.
Yes. The only thing I wanted to say is, because I actually don't know specifically what you're talking about, because you're talking sort of vaguely, but I did just want to say.
I was informed that I had to wait until the next meeting to get into
Okay,
specifics.
no, I understand. All I wanted to say in general was just, you had said that the meeting minutes don't reflect what was actually said at the meeting, and all I wanted to say is that the minutes are not a transcript, they're a summary of what happened. It's not supposed to be a word-for-word verbatim. Again, I don't know like exactly what you're alluding to.
I appreciate that clarification.
But I will say, Selectman Goulart, there have been times where, and we've discussed this at meetings, or at least alluded to it, where I've asked you, because the meeting, we all understand, the meeting minutes are the official record of the meeting, okay? But we put our meetings on YouTube, and we have Channel 9 that plays the recordings, and I thought you had said, and I wanted to say it to you directly in case I'm incorrect, didn't you say one time to me that if worse came to worse, I'm paraphrasing, and there were a legality issue, that the court would look at the actual meeting if there were some sort of discrepancy?
That's my question.
Yes, usually what happens is, for example, let's say there was a case and certain selectmen records minutes were required. They would also ask to see the tape. It's the written word that is the first thing that comes to mind. By the same token, if there is an error made in the written record and it is discovered after they've been accepted, they can be amended. But what you do is you write the what is to be amended so that the other board members can look at that and actually see what got accepted, and that's how you do it. And you might not even have all been on the board at the same time. Obviously, in June you were. Just, if one occurred back in March or something, when I was on the board, and down the road, you found an error and said, hey, wait a minute, that isn't what we agreed to do. You check the tape and say, you know what, there's a misunderstanding. When the minutes were written, this is actually what we did. So at that point, you would correct it, and you would cross-reference the minutes, so that if in fact, any time down the road, the minutes were requested, there would be a reference to the amendment that was made at a later date. So again, it wouldn't have to even be the same members, as long as you could show, this is exactly what the tape said. This is what the minutes said that got approved. Now, when you see the tape and you see this is a guy's an error, so let's just correct it. You can do that, okay?
Thank you, Selectman Goulart.
So, please, I'm asking this, I'm not doing it to create a big hullabaloo. I just want it to be on record as to what it was said. Now, my question was, if the minutes, especially in light of the fact that we summarize what goes on at the meetings, and that, to me, is somewhat dangerous, because they can be admitted, and in other instances, into court as official legal documents. A summary of what a person says may not accurately reflect everything that the person said. Can a transcript be added to the summary?
No. If you're going to dispute minutes, a section of minutes, all right, that ends up in a vote or a discussion, first of all, the only thing you're required to do is to record the votes.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
If you summarize discussion, it does not have to be verbatim, because we don't do verbatim minutes.
Exactly.
And that would,
That would be a nightmare, by the way.
We have to
but I
hire
think
the
after
person.
the board in
Right.
15,
A
there was some boards
transcriptionist.
doing that, and the first thing I said was forget that.
I remember that, Selectman
Yes.
Goulart.
So, again, let's assume you had to go back and look at some minutes that have already been approved, because there's something going on that those minutes are required, and you look at them and say, I don't remember that happening, so you go to the tape, and you listen to the tape, and you say, I knew the vote was not correct when I looked at it because of what was said. What you would do is summarize what you heard on the tape, not verbatim. Mr. So-and-so said such and such, and Mr. So-and-so said such, and there was discussion. And during the discussion, there was consensus of the board, whatever, and then there's a vote.
Yeah.
Okay? If the vote that is taken reflects what is on the tape, you're all set. If the vote as recorded is not reflected in the minutes, what you do is summarize what was on the tape, bring it to the board, and say, I think we need to look at this, and certainly the other board members can look at the tape, and say, here's a summary of what happened, and that makes sense according to the vote that was taken. But what actually ended up in the minutes, this is not clearly what was going on, so we need to amend. So that discussion that you have summarized and brought to the board, if the board agrees, it's obviously there's a misinterpretation here, they would vote to amend the minutes of whatever the date is and reference the summary that was prepared based on the tape. And that would go into the minutes. And the original minutes would have a note that said, see Selectmen's meeting of whatever the date was for amendment.
Okay.
So that you can follow it. But no, we don't, nobody does verbatim.
Do you mind if I ask you a question? So, because again, I don't exactly know, because I know it's not on the agenda. I understand how things work. But what Selectman Goulart is alluding to is that often these discrepancies occur because of a vote. So was this discrepancy we're talking about a vote?
No.
Okay. So then it wouldn't be like a court thing. There would be no transcript needed.
If in fact, all you're talking about is discussion summarized in the minutes that don't factually reflect what was really said, then you can still do the same thing. Do the summary and say, this is what the tape said. This is what the minutes say. They're not factual, you can't even put them together, okay? Yes, but you're not gonna write pages and pages of discussion. The whole point with the minutes is, and especially since we now have electronic copies, you can go back and look. Whereas in the old days, whatever got voted, even if it was wrong, later you found out it was wrong, it's too late. But at least you have a way of verifying that now. It wouldn't have to be necessarily legal action. Any citizen, anyone who requests those public records could look at them and go and do the same thing. The other thing too is, June 16th, were we still doing Zoom? Because another thing is, could the person who was doing the recording of the minutes, meaning taking the minutes to type them up, if we were doing Zoom, maybe they couldn't hear. So, again, if there is that much of a variance, anyone in the public can look at the minutes of a given meeting and match them to the recorded meeting and come in and say, Board of Selectmen, I think you've got a problem. When this meeting was held, the tape says this, the minutes say this. You need to look at this because this is not factual. This isn't what really happened, okay? But again, it's up to the board to look at what is now the summary of the video and what is actually in the minutes to make a decision whether or not they are going to actually do the amendment.
So, we are very lucky when Selectman Goulart was on the board to serve with me. You would take the time, in all fairness, you would do a lot of the motions. And so I know why you wanted to go through the minutes, because you wanted to make sure that the minutes reflected the correct motion that you had made at the meeting. If you, now coming back to this issue, if you want to amend the minutes, the way that Selectman Goulart, I'm just going to describe the process, did it, was she would handy red pen, she would mark it up, and then she would give it back to the executive assistant. That became part of the minutes. So you could see what was edited. But I will say this, and I know why you did it, and please, I'm not saying this about you at all. I have a concern, since we have a perception that things maybe aren't as transparent as they should be, I don't think it solves the problem by having members of the Board of Selectmen editing their own minutes. I like the process, because I will say I have really never, ever asked for changes to the minutes since I've been on the board, because I trusted Selectman Goulart and she did a great job. But I have never asked one of the administrative assistants to change the minutes simply because this is just my personal thought, I feel like that's inappropriate. Why should I dictate what the minutes say? The minutes are done by the administrative team.
My impression when I was told was that I couldn't do that I could recommend, and it had to be done by vote.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate, yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, even just a selectman, and again, I'm just talking about the perception, not saying anyone ever did anything wrong, because Selectman Goulart certainly did not. But it's just the perception. Like, does everyone want me editing the minutes? No, of course not, because my votes and my statements are also in there. So it's better to have a third party do it, not talk about it, not communicate. I trust that Mrs. Brady and Mrs. Kerwin are doing it accurately. So again, those are just, I'm just talking about how I have comported myself. Again, Selectman Goulart served this town very well, and she only did it because she wanted to make sure that the minutes reflected the correct motions and votes in case an illegality were raised or some issue like that. So again, those are just my 2 cents.
I take exception, as members of the Board of Selectmen, I don't care what board you're on in this town or what committee you're appointed to, you have an obligation to make sure the minutes of your meetings are correct and accurate. I read all the stormwater minutes, okay? And sometimes I'll go to our assistant and say, we're out in the field at times, so there's nobody taping or anything else, and that's why she has a clipboard and takes names and all these things that she has to do when we're on the road, so to speak. But you are obligated to look at those minutes. It is not an attempt to intimidate anybody or to make anyone embarrassed because of anything else. I did for 20-some years, I did school committee meetings. Every single Tuesday night, I was in a different town. And quite often, the boards that employed me, Berkeley, Dayton, Rehoboth, and Regional, they would start to make a motion and say to me, finish it. And I'd say, is this what you want to say? Yes. Okay, I'll take care of it. Okay? I had very few changes, and they were minor. But what I'm saying to you, in the course of discussion and everything else, and we've had Zoom meetings and everything else, and I have no idea what was on the meeting of the 16th. Every member of every board, of every committee is required to take meetings. You're supposed to vote to accept them. You better read them, and you better make sure they're right. I read the drafts that come from the person who does our minutes. And they go out to the board before the meeting, the committee, Stormwater Committee, before the meeting. I expect anyone who reads those to say, where did that come from? I don't remember that. And to either get back to her or me so that we can figure this out. Did I misunderstand that? Or what was the agreement? So, yes, you are obligated. I'm sorry. It's not that you're being critical of anybody. You have an obligation to vote to say, to the best of our knowledge, these minutes are accurate and correct. If you find an error, you're obligated to correct it.
Thank you. And I want to thank, Chair, Mr. Mullen for explaining to me the process. So one of the things, just to relieve some fears that some people may have or the perception, is that it is still a learning process for me.
I understand.
And this discussion has been very helpful. And that's another reason why it's not going to come up for a vote tonight or a request, a motion tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
And I don't want you to leave this conversation by thinking that there have been times that Selectman Aguiar has been correct and changed something that was inaccurate, and I happily voted for it. So I don't want you to think that again, just only speaking for myself, I read the minutes. If I see something that I think is not accurate, I simply ask someone to look. Can you please check this again? But I just don't do it myself, that's all.
Well, I've done it, not as much as Mrs. Goulart, but I've done it in the past when I think there's been an error. I've asked either Karen or Leanne to take a look at the minutes. I think Lenny made the motion and not Brett, or you voted aye and they put no. Those kind of corrections.
Yes.
I've done that in
Yes,
the past.
absolutely.
And when Mrs. Goulart, as you mentioned, the red pen, we will look at those minutes before we actually voted on them to see what the changes are. And normally, most cases, she was correct. So we were okay with it, and we approved the minutes as that. I would just suggest, though, that if you have any concerns about the minutes, I know we're going to vote on the 23rd, but on the 16th, that your colleagues know what those concerns are before the meeting, so that we can review the tape and that kind of stuff.
I think
You can call me out of order if you want, but that meeting, the words that you said were the most disrespectful.
You know what was disrespectful? You bringing in a Confederate flag into this chamber here. That was disrespectful. Yeah, that was a good point. Who actually owns a Confederate flag? And you are out of order. You are out of order.
I've never heard a selectman disrespect that flag of the United States the way you did. You should be ashamed of yourself.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself because you're misquoting me, and you do it all the time. And the other day, you actually...
Right here in the tape.
Good. So, no, I don't want to hear it because I've seen it. I've seen the tape. Okay? Yeah, but you think that I've actually doctored. But you think that I've doctored that tape. That's how stupid you are. Okay?
Oh, you want to call me stupid?
Yeah, I want to call you stupid. That's an ignorant. Yo, yeah, that's a good threat. You're a good man. You're a good man. Yeah, big tough guy.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself for putting phony stuff on Facebook, calling. You didn't post. Wait, you didn't post. Did Kenny Pacheco have the cable committee or himself edit the YouTube? Oh, you didn't.
No.
Well, I saw it was Robert Woods. Okay. But anyway, Mrs. Goulart, you had your hand up.
I just wanted to say one other thing. When it comes to the Stormwater Committee, you're gonna understand. I'm the chairman, but I'm under duress. Because those minutes are signed by the chairman and the clerk. And he happens to be sitting here tonight, I won't name him, in short pants, And he wishes, but he wants to make sure they're accurate, so I just let you know that. There's a second pair of eyes, okay?
There's a few people wearing shorts.
Yeah,
so,
I was like,
yeah.
wait, I'm not on that committee.
You're gonna be,
Could I finish
Sure,
the question
yes.
that was asked? Excuse me.
please,
As
let's let
Mr.
the house speak.
Mullen instructed me, we could not vote on this tonight. That I could serve notice to generate a discussion, to be informed, and to take that discussion to my colleagues. I cannot have a discussion with you because of the open meeting law, the way I would like. I have to do it in a meeting, according to a procedure. I met with Mr. Mullen today, and he explained that to me, and that's what I'm doing.
It's totally valid. I should have said this, and I apologize. Specifically about June 16th, the procedure would be, before the next meeting, whoever would make the edits, it would be circulated to the board before, just like in the packet.
Right.
And then that's it, and then it's a discussion.
No, thank you.
So I hope you didn't leave this discussion thinking that I wouldn't even look at it.
No.
I wanted us to all understand what the process was and what it's been, that's all.
Being new, I didn't know the process to a man. I wanted it on this agenda, and I was told I couldn't. I wasn't told that by either one of you. I was told that by the town administrator, who I consider a neutral, non-political entity, who works for us. Lenny, this is the way you do things. So I'm doing it that way.
I'm with you.
Okay?
Thank you.
So we still have a motion and a second on the June 23rd, 2021. Do you have a concern about those
No.
minutes?
Are we all okay to vote on this one?
Yes.
June 23rd? Okay.
Yeah. We already had the motion, and I seconded it. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Except for review, the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting minutes of July 14, 2021.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Approval of the warrants.
This is the passing of the baton right here, Selectman Goulart. Warrants dated August 4th, 2021. 5A-22 in the amount of $127,308.49. 5B-22, $428,784.83.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve the warrants, the following warrants, all dated August 11th, 2021, as follows. 6A-22 in the amount of $130,813.12. 6B-22 in the amount of $61,193.59. And 6C-22 in the amount of $72,337.50.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Public input. Just give your name and address, please.
Who are you? What say you?
Laura Madera, 1645 Maple. I just had a question about the Sweet Knolls Park, because from what I understand, it is a state park, but it's also obviously in the town of Dayton. I bring my dog there all the time. I hired a dog walker. She brings my dog there all the time. And I know it kind of sparked my memory when you were bringing up the announcements and that we have the leash law. There's signs everywhere about having your dog on a leash. Unfortunately, my dog walker came in a situation where another dog was off a leash and the owner yelled to my dog walker that the dog will bite your dog, you need to run. So she distracted her dog. My dog walker ran as fast as she could with my dog. Luckily, everyone was safe.
Yeah.
She did contact Stacy Ferry, and I believe she also contacted the Dayton PD too. I just don't know if there's any way or what the process would really be to monitor it, and I don't know if it's something that the town would do, or if that's more of, because it's a state park, I don't know where responsibility would really lie.
Yeah, I believe it's a state park, as you noted.
Right.
But I also thought dogs weren't allowed in that. Is that?
They have signs that you just need to leash your dog and pick up dog poop. There's trails, you can walk them.
So you probably
Is
need
that
to,
an ACO issue? Like the animal
I don't think, I think it's
control officer?
DCR. The state will be,
They would be, so I just wanted to try to contact somebody else too, because I just don't know if there's, I mean, of course, obviously, we've mentioned it to people, and it's obviously aware, but I've gone back and I've seen the same person with their dog on leash, so I don't, like, of course, me saying something doesn't, I just don't know how else, and I like that you bring it up in the announcements. I
Yeah,
think that's
of
very
course.
important. I've posted things on Facebook, on the town, You Know You're From Dayton pages. I just don't know if it's like, I don't know how else to make it more like,
Who has the question is, I'm in your brain tonight. Who has jurisdiction? Is it the, well, here's the thing. Isn't the ACO also the state designated animal inspector? So wouldn't it be
Well, the
them?
town of
Like, who
Dayton.
would we call for an issue where there's a dog on technically a state park in the town of Dayton? And maybe we don't have this answer tonight, but we can certainly
Yeah, I
get
can
back
follow
to
up
you.
with DCR
Yeah.
for sure.
yeah, I was just out of curiosity wondering how to really go about it, to
Yeah.
obviously avoid something from happening.
course.
'Cause if
Well,
there
we've
is a
had-
vicious dog off a leash,
Correct.
that's
We've
a
had,
major concern, because kids walk other people's dogs, humans, anybody, you know?
I
It's
agree.
just something that made me nervous, and I wanted to bring it up and see where
you.
we could go with it.
well, as you know,
Park, you call the state police.
No. DCR, I agree, and possibly, environmental police.
I have the answer.
On
MSPCA, thank you, Mrs. Ferry.
Ah, thank you, Mrs. Ferry.
I mean, why? Poor- She's stuck, she hung in there with us.
Well, I've actually
Ferry.
spoke with her on this side too, so that's very helpful that,
Mr. Ferry?
And also in reference to DCR, the Freetown headquarters oversees our state park.
Thank you, Mr. Ferry.
I
okay.
didn't know that, that's
Very
good to know.
helpful.
But again, part of the reason we put it on there was because of a like a dog-on-dog attack. So we just want to make sure that everybody is respecting the bylaws and respecting each other.
Yeah, no, it's very important, so I appreciate you
And
doing
thank you
that.
for letting us know, because how else would we know if, like, we don't,
Right.
people don't tell us. So thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Is there anybody on Zoom?
Are we going to follow up with the MSPCA on this? I just wanted to ask about this.
Yeah, I can follow up with MSPCA, like, and DCR, like, and make sure they know that there is,
We've had complaints
Yes,
about, okay. Thank
absolutely.
you. Sorry, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
is there anybody on Zoom that wishes to speak, public input?
Mrs. Mello?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Chuck?
I'm all set, thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Is there anybody else here, public input? Mr. Rosa?
I need to state my name and address again.
I think we got
Of
it.
course. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. So I did want to speak to just for a brief moment on the issue of record and changing the record. And the, who makes, who votes on what and how that, how do you say, you make a motion. So what motions are made. These are the things that have political ramifications, obviously for the members of the Board of Selectmen and for members of the committees as well. So it's, you know, so that's, I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on TV, but
Hey,
I'm
that's
thinking
my
that that
line.
would be the, that would be the fine point of concern. And if I come to the defense of somebody who makes an emotional remark that they may want to reconsider after the fact, then I should be willing to come to the aid of those who make emotional remarks that I disagree with for whatever reason. So I think emotional remarks are less pertinent. They may be pertinent in many respects, but I think in terms of, not completely, but in terms of legal consequence, or they would be less pertinent.
Yeah,
That would be
I agree.
my casual, non-lawyer assessment although we all should guard against emotional, I would recommend anyone in an elected position, including myself, that you guard against emotional responses. It probably won't serve you well, and it probably is not really what you intended to say, and you, in a quiet moment, you reflect on it and think, damn, I shouldn't have said that. So to go to your point about what is of concern, it's the political ramifications of making motions and voting on things. The emotional outbursts, unfortunately, those of us who make them will have to spend our time on the cross for them. So,
Can
I
I
don't
ask
get in
you
trouble for
Rosa,
that analogy.
Your advice is well taken.
All right,
Thank you.
gentlemen, have a
While-
good night. Thank
while
you for
you're
your
here,
service.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, please.
And I'm not, we've disagreed, we've agreed, Dave.
Yep.
It is what it is, right?
Yep.
And I will always talk to you when I see you.
I think in public, I've tried to be, in terms of official events, I've tried to be respectful.
Absolutely.
And,
No,
I
agree.
hope I've accomplished that to some degree.
So please don't take offense to what
No,
I'm
no,
about
go
to
right
tell
ahead.
you. I was a little disturbed by what you said to our building commissioner earlier, and you have every right to, so please know that what I'm telling you right now is not what you can and cannot say at a public meeting.
Yeah.
I think the courteous thing to do was not make a spectacle at a public meeting, and you could have simply sent an email. So, and I'm not trying to make an issue out of it, because you didn't say that you were offended, we didn't have a conversation, it just happened. But I think that if the intent, you never want to make someone feel embarrassed, because that person it's the wrong reaction. That person is going to want to go and take that recommendation or whatever it is. So I would just hope that if someone, not you now, just talking generally, if someone has like a recommendation for a town employee, could you not come to a meeting and make like a big spectacle? You can simply send an email, and we will be sure that your issue is addressed. No, I know. I know.
Some
Well,
of our emotional outbursts are calculated, sir. So, perhaps what I should have done is
I would appreciate the courtesy going forward.
perhaps what I should have done, decorum in mind, is ask the chairman if he and the Board of Selectmen would take it under advisement to encourage whomever, regardless of the situation, to, if there is a situation that develops where it's becoming a bit of an impediment to, or somehow or another, trouble to other groups or the town, to redouble their efforts to resolve the matter. So perhaps I should have asked the board to ask the person involved if they would make changes. Maybe that was the appropriate way to do it. So I'm not going to chase that point, because I think I pressed that button already, and maybe with a little too much vigor.
I think so.
But
we still love you, Dave.
But, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you for your service.
And I didn't mean to, I doubt you even felt, I would have felt some type of way if it had been me, so I just felt like it was appropriate to say it. I will also say, going forward, and this isn't for you, Dave, but you can stay for it. Going forward, if we could please stop the incessant spreading of misinformation on Facebook. If you have a question about something on the agenda, rather than rolling over in your bed and typing something on Facebook that's untrue, if you could just go ahead and give Town Hall a call, 508-669-6431. We'll be sure to get you the accurate information, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other public?
Can I just
Sure.
say, Dayton Cable Committee does need help, so
Yes.
if anybody's interested, please apply, come to Board of Selectmen, email us. We need help.
Absolutely. And we will be sure that's on the announcements going forward.
The cable committee, they're all the members who work doing what you do, or they do administrative,
We all do everything.
Okay, so you need people, okay.
Sometimes, there's only 3 of us technically on the board right now. We all 3 usually can't be here at the same time. So it just makes things very challenging, and
I know.
we need help.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you one question, not to belabor the point, and maybe I'm incorrect. There was a general volunteer who asked to be appointed as a general volunteer, Ron Smith, and I know he had helped out a couple years ago, and I just wasn't sure if he's like still available for you guys, or.
I came on this board, I believe, June of 2017.
Uh-huh.
Ron left in July of that year,
Okay.
He's been appointed, I have not seen
Okay,
this.
okay, so it's not help, because now I'm thinking we have 4 people, when in reality, okay. So we will make
The
sure,
last members we had were, Max Howell and
okay.
Julia.
Oh, yeah, I
And
remember
they've
that.
been gone for probably a year and a half.
Is there any way that we could spotlight them either at the next meeting? I don't know if you have time, or the meeting after that?
We did one 2 meetings ago, I believe.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well,
I
it didn't
had
help,
some
no.
minutes to it.
We didn't get any more volunteer
But
apps.
it didn't- so that's why I'm hoping.
Kim, if we could, the reason I'm making, no committee vacancy is more important than any other, so please know I'm not picking winners and losers here, but we won't have a Channel 9 operation if we don't have the capable hands. So if we could go ahead and get this under announcements,
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that would be very appreciated. A lot of our assignments come up in June.
You want to let Mrs. Goulet speak first? or-
Sure. I want to make sure also we don't leave the town with nobody filling it.
exactly,
Because I know people that they watch the meetings, they rely on it, everyone here has been watching the meetings.
Correct.
They
It's
obviously
important.
prefer to physically see it on YouTube or on Channel 9.
Mhm.
I don't want people that have to rely on minutes because there's nobody here.
Ex-
The cameras, you know.
absolutely.
Yeah, I saw Mrs. Goulet's hand raised, so she might be volunteering to be on
Yes.
the cable committee.
My fellow committee person with short pants who remains unnamed and signs the minutes, got a big smirk on his face. No, that isn't gonna happen. But I'm thinking of
Yeah,
when
is it me or,
people-
no, just
When people, way back when, in the early stages, they contacted Boston University. There was a student living in town who was in the program. And he came to town, he served as an intern, and I know Miss Olney and, I can't think who else told me about what a great job he did. So maybe we need to reach out to the colleges or universities to see that if they have students who are willing to come in, they come in trained.
Yeah.
So they're not coming in green to learn, they're coming in for hands-on, because they already know a certain amount of thing. I think he teaches at BU now, but he doesn't live in town anymore, but it's a thought. They're gonna be looking for internships, I would think.
Select-
We reached out to the high school. I started making training documents because I was thinking if we end up leaving, having somebody just touch this, they won't know what to do. So I started making training documents, so hopefully these and anybody who does and is interested, please. It's not as scary as it looks or sounds.
This student, because that was what his major was, he actually came in and helped set things up, because he was already trained. He had that background.
Right.
And we made out well with other interns in other departments for other kinds of work, so maybe there's somebody out there.
When I first joined Selectmen Goulet, we had this question, and there had been some kind of an internship, I won't call it a program, but it was a partnership where people from Bridgewater would come here, and then they would get college credits. I recall I did reach out to the gentleman at that time who was the contact, that was just the name that someone gave me, and I think they said that guy retired and they weren't doing it anymore. But maybe they have a new contact. This was a couple years ago, and I'd be happy to reach out to them. Boston University, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Ferry, was there somebody from...
Listen, you gotta be clear.
I want to say BU that mapped, did work for you? Checking, was it Dale Falls? Way back when?
Yeah, yes. Tibby. Yes.
No, it was a woman.
Yes. Tibby. She GPS located all of the outfalls, Stormwater outfalls.
Okay, and that was part of her degree program. So, and Bridgewater State, yes, we've had those too, so, and who knows, there may be something at BCC or UMass Dartmouth. We have a lot of schools around here.
We do. We really do.
We're
We
forgetting
really
one.
do. BCC.
Lord Chairman,
No?
in Taunton, they use high school students.
Ah, that's right. That's true too.
Are there any, does DR have a
We've
video
asked.
program?
They have a video program and we've asked.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
They unfortunately don't have anybody that they could have offered, but he's going to bring it up with this upcoming school year, in September. So hopefully, once the school year starts, we can try to get some people from the program, because that would be obviously the ideal situation. Just no one's really bit our bait the past few
What
years
the-
with that.
What the two video teachers did they gave extra credit. It started with Peter Higgins and then the gentleman, Mr. Jakes. They gave incentives to the students, extra credit, to be involved in their cable, both the municipal channel and the school channel.
Yeah, they had a whole program at the high school, because I know the courthouse, every semester we would get 1 or 2 students that worked in probation. They didn't get paid or anything like that, but they were interns, and they would actually do some running and that kind of stuff. In the first graduation I went to for those students from that program, the person that we had decided that she did not want to go on probation, which was a little shock for me, because she was so good at it. She probably became a lawyer.
So how would we go about getting those kids extra credit if, like, that can be an incentive for them to join? Like, I don't know how I would go, would we talk to the video professor, or would that be something for the school committee?
They have like it's usually, I will just say usually, because I think maybe different schools are different, but usually it's like a program with a program coordinator, and that's the person you would talk to, who you would reach out to upon, I don't know, some successful completion of whatever these projects are for the intern, to say, hey, so-and-so, are you an intern, Mike?
No, the magic word is internship.
Yes, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It is an internship program. I should have said that explicitly, but it's for credits. It's not for compensation, though we do have interns.
I'm going to suggest that this be handled through, I don't want to give him more work, but I'm going to give him more work. Town administrator, I think.
Sure.
Absolutely.
If we can have a discussion about this, we really need help.
Oh, no.
You're on your own. Good luck.
Talking to the
Invent an
principal,
internship program, guys.
It didn't come up at last night's school
We will
committee meeting.
absolutely, this is a priority, and I will help the town administrator however he needs on this, and reach out to whatever universities. We have some leads according to Selectman Goulart, so
They said would
it
be
takes no effort.
They had something recorded.
It's possible, but they said on the Channel 98
Absol-
that they weren't going to show it until tonight.
That is where
I had
he
to start
went,
the
and I
commission
think,
meeting at 7
so
anyway,
our
I
reach
wasn't
is pretty
gonna-
far, so
6:30 I went on, that was
I'm
on
happy to
tape.
reach out to whatever department we have to,
If it's
at
on
whatever
tonight, just
university
inform me.
or school.
Thank you, School.
Thank you for your everybody's
Add to the list.
Is that it?
Doesn't even phase him anymore. I'm just kidding.
So one of the things, if I could, Mr. Chairman, if you could table agenda item 15 until after agenda item 16.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Do you
Yes.
want to do that? Is that okay?
That was me.
No, you did it on purpose. It's okay.
Okay.
You wanted me to have dinner. Yes.
What agenda item is this?
Adjournment.
The
Want to go
adjournment
into
before executive session.
Yes.
It's a typo.
Yes. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
We have,
Yeah,
you want me to read it?
No, it's okay. Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, Selectman Hull, I motion that we enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Number 3, to discuss the strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares.
I so declare.
Alrighty. Negotiations with Dayton police officers, Mass Cop 306 update.
Is there a second?
Second.
We will not reconvene, so this will be it on the public meeting. I'll ask for a vote, roll call vote. Selectman Dr. Z?
Aye.
Selectman Hull?
Aye.
And Ken Pacheco is an aye.
Thank
Thank you, everybody.
Cable, thank you.